The commissioner's on the way. There we are. Okay.
Hang on 1 second.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to the July regular meeting of the Albany County Planning and Zoning Commission. Do a quick roll call. Hanning
Here.
Platt here. Cornick
Here.
David
Hill.
Hinkley here, where you have full strength. First item on the agenda, is the agenda. Comments, questions, suggestions, deletions, additions. Anybody?
Yes. Just a general question. Just wondering if it would be more considerate of the public if we didn't put citizens' comments at the very end of the agenda all the time? Is there a reason why we do that? Make people wait?
Well, all right, let's talk about that at the end.
Okay.
But that's
Okay,
it's a worthy topic. I don't know that
We want to encourage public input, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's arguments both ways. Okay, so let's add that to our other items. But yeah, it's worthy of some discussion, I think. I would like to add just an update on the monitor well program that the city has put forward and where the county might go in. Is that acceptable? Okay, and I would just put that in, I guess, again. Well, maybe we'd call that current planning projects. It's not our program, but it's one that we are interested in. So let's get our staff to give us an update. All right, with those two additions, are we okay with the agenda? Ms. Fanning, are you?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Yeah, is there a second?
Only second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that's our agenda. Okay, the minutes of the June 12 meeting are now open for comment, correction.
I have a few.
Go right ahead, please.
Line 42. After Mr. Gert's response, it says she, and I was wondering if it should be he, or is it reference to Commissioner Cornick? I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll look into it.
Line 48, again, it says she after Mr. Gert's comment, and I wasn't sure if you are referring to Mr. Gertz or to me.
I think that was you, but I
So
can
it-
change that.
Maybe make it another item, or
Yeah.
say Commissioner Ben David responded by.
Right.
Okay, line 50. It should read, it would be nice to hear
Yep.
from Game and Fish.
Yeah, that's it.
53. 53, he asked about there not being a change to the development pattern. This is awkward. I would just say he asked whether there will be a change to the development.
Yeah.
Just the use of the word being is confusing here. Line 69. Said the more people that go out of there, the more taxes will go up. I would just change this whole thing to he voiced concern about increasing taxes.
Yeah.
Line 77.
Yeah, I guess I would like to preserve that he wanted his property to stay at 40 acres. He did say.
Yeah, no, not take it out. No, I didn't suggest that taken out. Just a word about the first part.
Okay, gotcha.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, line 77, you misspelled my last name. I don't know
Yeah.
how.
Yeah, I see.
It's David. Line 84. It says Chairman Hinckley asked about the timeline that new zoning districts could be break up the rural residential. That sentence is awkward.
I had a correction to offer there.
Okay, so it says so break up to say divide. But also if you have a correction, then we might follow with yours. And then, hang on, we're getting closer. Line 115. Says Commissioner Van David opposes this application because of its location and being so close to so it should be without an apostrophe, and I would actually just write because of its location near the concrete plant and railroad tracks. Make it simpler. Line 133 should be the commission restricted the flexibility and feels comfortable. S is missing after feel. Line 141 should read landfill or dumps with a P. Sorry, I was on a roll. Line 151. It says the commission agreed to set up a special meeting and come up with language. I would exchange the words come up with develop. It's a little nicer. Line 172. The wording is weird. Staff told the commission that something would be figured out with this, and I would say we're sick to resolve the issue with this application. I'm not going to figure out anything. We're just going to resolve the issue. Okay. And throughout all the documents, and I didn't highlight any more specific, every time we say breaking up, we should talk about divide and not breaking up. Use the word divide. Okay?
Does
That was mine.
anybody have any objections to those as just literal corrections? Okay, others? Thank you for that careful read. And yeah, don't be shy about that. These should be as clean as we can make them because they're the permanent record. So no problem there. I had a couple to add, some of which you had already mentioned. On line 54, 55, just to clarify what my point was, I'd like to add to that last sentence. He brought up the comprehensive plan and is skeptical of whether it is planning or inventory regarding the rural residential designations on the future land use.
Okay.
And that I was quite specific about that map that had these rural residential things scattered all over the place. And then similar, just a little expansion to make the record clear what we were talking about at line 85. I would accept the change that Commissioner Van David has suggested, but I would strike so the commission would feel more comfortable with allowing this type of situation is quite vague. I think we were fairly specific. So strike that phrase, so the commission would feel more comfortable, and substitute. So the change in minimum lot size could be a smaller step than from 35 acres to 2 acres. I think that was kind of what resonated with all of us, was that we just felt that was a large step. Then at line 88, the way it's written, it says open dense development in a region that is critical wildlife habitat. I thought that we did not understand whether it was or not. We wanted someone to
More info,
explain that.
yeah.
Yeah, so
It is,
maybe
but
change is to maybe,
could be.
you know, or could be, because we didn't have
Like
that.
is likely. This
I'm
is
pretty sure
likely.
that's what the motion was, though.
Oh, is that right? That is?
Yes.
Well, okay, if Commissioner Van David was being that confident about critical habitat, let's leave it as is. We can't change what we said. We can make it clearer. Okay, and that is all I had. So, do we have a motion to approve the June 12th minutes as amended?
I move that we accept the June 12 minutes as amended.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. So moved and seconded to approve the minutes as amended. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Okay, let's move on to the special meeting minutes from June 27. Same procedure. Does anybody have something to add to those? I had one small correction in line 23. It says has been attached to these minutes. How about will be? Because at the time, we did not have that in front of us. And so that would just be a slight correction. And then it'll carry forward. I like the way you handled the surface disturbance thing. We were looking for a home for those, and I think this worked well. Line 68. Whether this can be clarified usefully on the fly, but I have a big, there, did everybody else read 15 and understand what it was talking about? And again, if it's clear to everybody else, then maybe it's just my problem, but I couldn't make sense of, we can't require an evaluation of proposed wastewater facilities, which are anything but small wastewater. And the small wastewater regulations should be in the small wastewater facility regulations. Okay, but
I agree. It's good. The word
I think that was
wastewater
verbatim.
facility is
I
there.
think that's what he said.
Is that right?
Sometimes it
Oh, yeah, I
wants-
know what it means. Yeah.
Mr. Harris, I wandered about around. Mr. Harris, you clarify that, or are you happy to leave it as it is? It's quoting you.
Sorry, what line was that?
Okay, line 68, item 15. It was this tangled knot of wastewater and subsurface disposal.
I would have to get with Joe in order to revise that, so I
Okay,
can't come up with anything on the fly.
all right, well, can we leave that as just let's look at that, see if it can be clarified. If that's just what he said, then that's just what he said, but for someone reading the minutes, it might be helpful if we elaborate it a little bit.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Line 75, simple one, the word on in the middle should be one.
Yeah.
And that's all I had. Other thoughts? Do we agree with those small amendments, suggestions? Okay, motion to approve,
I move to approve the minutes as amended.
second.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the June 27 minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign, I should ask. None. It carries. Disclosures, conflict of interest. Anybody want to share anything with the group here about what they might have to say on the rest of the agenda? Sanning?
I have nothing to disclose.
Mr. Platt? None. Ms. Kokornik?
None.
It's been David.
None.
I have none. We can move forward into the full agenda. Okay, first item up is the Professional Builders LLC zoning district amendment, ZDA 0324. This will be public comments will be handled as a public hearing. So let me just briefly review the procedure that we go through on these. First is a report from the staff, which Mr. Gertz is obviously prepared to deliver. We will then interrogate him fiercely to better understand what's going on with the application. We'll invite comments from the applicant. That's not necessary, but if someone representing the applicant is here, we will give them an opportunity to share their concerns and stand for questions. Then we'll take official public comments by way of a public hearing. If you do want to comment on this application, please come up to the podium, state your name and address clearly for the record, and try to confine your remarks to 3 minutes and not be too repetitive of what you've heard before. Although that's not a prohibition. If everybody feels the same way, that is worth knowing as well. Then we'll take a motion to close the public hearing and move on to discussion amongst ourselves and whatever action we want to take. So, ZDA 0324, Mr. Gertz, you have the floor.
Thank you. So our applicant tonight is Professional Builders LLC. Grant Lindstrom is sitting behind me. So if you have questions for the applicant, he is here. Address for this property is addressed, well, one of the properties is addressed 2791 North 9th, and there are also unaddressed parcels that are contiguous to that one. The entire property that they're looking for rezoning is 1.27 acres. And the existing land use, or there's only one of the properties has a storage building, the rest is vacant. Current zoning is small lot residential, and they're requesting a change from that designation to commercial. Properties around this are either vacant. To the south, they're being used for non-residential storage, and the property to the west is being used as a residence. A number of folks have reviewed or was sent this application for review. Those that did review it, see if there's anything interesting that I should point out. Let's see, most of them didn't have much comments or many comments. The city of Laramie did have a public comment. Their associate planner, Joseph Shahidi, noted that this area is designated urban single family residential by the Laramie Growth Area Plan. He noted the collaboration of stakeholders was included as part of the development of the Laramie Growth Area Plan, and he commented that the approval of the proposed change is not consistent with that plan. His complete comments are attached. So let's see, a number of things need to be found to approve this. The applicants provided such maps, surveys as required. This has been provided. The proposed zoning district amendment generally follows the comprehensive plan. Any other applicable land use plan. The comprehensive plan shows this area as priority growth area 1. The comp plan explains that this is an area where city services may be able to be extended efficiently. It is the area where the city is planning future extensions of roads, water, sewer, and other public services financed through future development. The intent is for properties in PGA 1 to develop to city densities and standards and annex, or eventually annex to the city of Laramie. The contiguous property to the south of the proposal is considered a developed property. Just want to note that. And then the comp plan also defines rural commercial areas, saying the rural commercial area or rural commercial designation is intended to provide for the development of small commercial areas to serve the needs of the area and to provide locations for community facilities. Allows for small commercial businesses catering primarily to users from their surrounding areas. Buildings should be small scale to relate to the surrounding residents. Uses include convenience stores, gas stations, restaurants, and professional offices. A mix of uses is encouraged in the form of residential shops or businesses. Rural commercial areas should be located at intersections of major roads to take advantage of higher traffic volumes and have water and sewer available. Laramie Growth Area Plan does designate this as urban single-family residential. Urban residential contains small, detached single-family dwellings on small lots. This area is characterized by dense housing that enhances the character of the city. These areas are close to cultural amenities, parks, and public spaces, contributing to walkable, dynamic lifestyle. So there are a number of impacts that this application needs to address. First is compatibility with surrounding properties. This proposal is compatible with the surrounding properties which are vacant or have storage buildings. This proposal is contiguous to an existing commercial zoning district directly to the south. Consistent patterns of development. The extension of the existing commercial zoning district is consistent with the area which has already been developed for storage purposes. We'll skip over a few of these. They don't really say much. Natural and environmental resource impacts. This proposal is adjacent to already developed areas. A large transmission line runs along the south portion of this property. The area is already impacted and will not cause any significant adverse impacts to natural or environmental resources in this area. Cultural resource impacts, none that we know of. The road network, the property is accessed off North 9th Street. Carroll Street is a platted right of way, and the applicant is proposing to improve the existing road. Carroll Street Road, I guess. And then impacts on public services, utilities, public facilities, properties, proximity to the city of Laramie allows for easy access to emergency services, utilities, etc. So just my brief analysis. So the comprehensive plan as well as the Laramie growth area plan support dense residential future uses in this area. Let's see. The Albany County Comprehensive Plan designates the existing commercial areas directly to the south of this proposal as existing developed area. However, the growth area plan does not acknowledge the existing commercial area. The comp plan does support commercial land uses in this area due to proximity to the major road. The North 9th Street is designated as a collector on the major street plan. This area does fit in with the rural commercial designation where it is near North 9th Street, which is designated collector. I conclude that generally the area generally follows the comp plan. The Laramie growth area plan may not be as supportive. It would be a good area to look at to determine whether adjustments to this map is necessary due to neglecting to consider the existing development and zoning in the area. I'd also note that the Pacific Core transmission line runs within Carroll Street right away adjacent to this proposal, which may not be an incentive for future residential development as proposed by the growth area plan. This proposal addresses all the impacts. The project is compatible with existing uses in the vicinity, which include both commercial and private storage structures. In addition, this proposal would be a logical addition to existing commercial districts that exist to the south of the property. Findings of fact, findings necessary for approval and applicant responses referenced in the report are adopted as findings reflecting that the applicant has adequately addressed the specified impacts and the same are incorporated herein. Conclusions of law, the applicant is proceeding in accordance with and in compliance with the regulations or the requirements of the Albany County zoning resolution. Staff recommends approval of the zoning district amendment, adopting and incorporating the staff analysis, findings of fact, and conclusions of law as they're stated in the staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, questions on the staff report. Some of these we will discuss later, but I think for the benefit of the public, let's kind of touch on issues that you may have, and certainly anything by way of just clarification. So.
How
anybody?
close is the property to the landfill? I wasn't clear on from looking at the maps.
The landfill, I guess I'm not sure how many miles away it is or whatever, but it's up the roadways, yeah.
The old
Closer to
entrance to the
town.
landfill is right on the hill. I mean, it's very
Okay,
close.
what's the question? Let's speak.
Closer to town from the landfill?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, other questions for Mr. Gertsch before I dive in? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Gertsch, I guess the question I have is kind of procedural about public notice. Because I think the requirement would be for the signage to be placed along a publicly used road, which would have been facing 9th Street, and instead it was placed facing the dirt road that nobody uses. So I sort of feel like the public notice process hasn't been followed appropriately for just because it's sort of a mixed area with a lot of residential, residents in the mobile home park, residences not far away to the north, to the west, to the east. And I feel like those people probably have no idea that this is going on. And it makes it hard for me to make an informed decision if I don't think notice has been given properly.
So, technically the property is not contiguous to, the road. There's actually a piece of property that's owned by the city of Laramie.
That little wedge there.
Sure, yes. And so, so there's no requirement, to use that portion of that property. While it would be easier to view probably if it was there. And Carroll Road is a publicly dedicated right of way, so it is technically a public road.
Good, let me just follow up on that while we're in the minute. I don't understand the piece. There's a small sliver between the road and that northwest corner of that property.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It shows up on the line copy ownership.
Oh, all right. Thank you. I wasn't sensitive to that subtlety. It was a little big sliver there. All right. Thank you. Go ahead.
So then you had input on where the sign would go, or you were aware and part of that
I was
process?
aware where it was put, yeah.
Okay. Okay, regarding the Laramie Growth Area Plan. I guess, well, yeah, this is a complex area with the multiple uses going on. Were the storage units already in existence when zoning was put on maps? Like,
The ones to the south or the ones on the existing property or
the ones to the south?
the ones to the south? I'm not aware of when those were put up.
Okay,
That's not something I looked up.
okay.
Or, yeah, or would even know. I mean, if it's before a certain date, I'm not sure if we even have the months for those.
I think they've been there a long time.
They could have been, yeah.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have.
I just,
Please go ahead.
but so you stated that the proposal is compatible with surrounding properties. Isn't there a residence right across the road?
Yeah, there is.
Okay, so it's not all commercial or vacant. There is a residence that is.
Yeah, that's across 9th Street, yes. Yeah, and it's set back quite a ways from the road, but yeah.
Yeah, does their property go down to the road? I think it does.
The property across the road?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Anything else, Mr. Cornick?
Um,
For the moment, you can come
I'm
back.
into Mr. Gertz. I'm interested in the public one.
Okay, just to clarify what we read here and picking up on what Commissioner Cornick just said early on, the property to the west is being used for residence. There's a quite a large new non-residential structure that's sitting there
Yeah.
that's pre your air photo. Do you know anything about that? What's that?
So that's something that we're looking into. We don't know what it is either, at least I don't, so.
Okay.
So we're, yeah, we need to look to see if there's a permit for that, because I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's an interesting looking building though.
Yeah, it does look like a residence.
Right, right.
That brick one?
Yeah,
I think it's a lift station for the water line.
for the water line.
Yeah, to go across. to
Okay.
the-
Also.
And there's possibility we have a permit. I just have not looked
Okay.
specifically. I've been meaning to ask our,
That'd be the city, right? Not obtaining a county permit.
yeah. Hopefully they've got a,
So the suggestion is it's in the county clearly, but it's part of that city water project that you see the pipe for. Oh, all right. Well, I was just was wondering because I had that same question of what is the area? Yeah, okay.
Oh, actually, I did have one other question.
Please.
Sorry, I just remembered. So the city had asked if the property owners intended to hook into city water and sewer. That was one of their comments on their city comments. Do you know if that's the case, or are they planning to do like a well on a?
I mean, this is a zoning change at this point.
That's true. Okay.
So we're not looking at a specific development. But I mean, that's a question you could ask the applicant.
Yeah, and we will have the opportunity to do that. your discussion refers to the comprehensive plan designation of something called rural commercial. But we don't have such a zoning, do we?
I mean, it's a land use. It's not a zoning district. Land use is different. Land use in a comprehensive plan is a more general term to include other types of zoning and things, such as we have our rural residential, which gives us latitude to have multiple rural residentials. But we don't have a specific, I mean, you're right, we don't have a zoning that matches that, and that's not the intent of a comprehensive plan, to have something that's a one-to-one match, because a comprehensive plan is not zoning.
Well, it
It's
is
just general.
zoning, but it guides zoning. I mean, this, we keep coming upon this, strikes me that what you quoted, the plan had in mind for rural commercial is that different thing that we've struggled with not having as opposed to commercial.
Sure.
So if we approve a commercial zone, we aren't really doing what the plan says or contemplates for rural commercial. So I guess that's where I was just getting a little tied up. This would suggest that this is what we're approving, that is not. So let us remind ourselves that a change to commercial zoning is a much broader portfolio of uses than rural commercial. Is that correct? I mean, my reading of rural commercial sounds like this kind of scaled down commercial thing that we've talked about and we'd like to have as a zoning.
I mean, it doesn't mean those uses couldn't happen on commercial zoning. And when this plan was developed, that wasn't something that was implemented in zoning. So all we do have is commercial. So that's kind of where we're at. And I mean, we use the comp plan. I mean, if we're going to use the comp plan, this is the only thing that points us to any type of commercial zone or commercial use.
Okay, so yeah, and I'm not necessarily criticizing it, just trying to understand.
I understand what you're saying. Yes, I think the intent of the rural commercial land use is for maybe more small scale type deal where our commercial is much broader. I mean, that's a correct statement, absolutely.
And we understand the staff to be working on trying to
Yes.
kind of parse out the
Right.
pieces of commercial. Okay.
Well,
Again,
are we doing commercial? Not right now, but okay, it's to come.
then as I was reminding myself what zones we do have to work with, remind us of what neighborhood business is. Is one of our zone options. What is that thing and would it be appropriate?
I would have to look up, I mean, that's not something I analyzed to see. I can't tell you off the top of my head. I can look into the regulations and report back, but right now I don't have those pulled up.
Okay, maybe I can quote that to you. I'm just wondering, as we always do, we have developed, I think, some appropriate reluctance to make these zoning changes that are very, very broad in what they would allow, despite an applicant coming to us with a much more modest proposal. Reading from the zoning resolution, the purpose of neighborhood business zone is to protect the character and property values of residential neighborhoods while allowing the operation of appropriate neighborhood-oriented businesses. So again, it struck me that perhaps there's room to do this smaller step that my colleagues and I may be sympathetic to under neighborhood
Right.
business. And I don't remember us ever having a discussion of neighborhood business zones.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
well, that's also not the request.
I understand, but our response to the request is a function of what we see as other options, is all I'm suggesting here, just as a more thorough discussion of where we are with this thing. Okay.
I mean, what you described is not what they're asking for anyways, because this is not in a residential area, really. It's
Not
a
yet.
commercial or undeveloped area.
Well,
I wouldn't say that it's necessarily
It's currently zoned residential,
true. It is.
so that's where I'm.
But none of that's been developed that way. I mean, the landowners out there have chosen to put up storage, basically non-residential storage type units that are in that vicinity. Even down the Carroll Road a little ways, there's a couple of those.
Right. So let's go to the maps at the end. And I'll walk through that for a moment. So I'm looking at the zoning map. I mean, this is an odd little piece that it's kind of an inroad into the city. Okay, I'm looking at the one that's called the zoning map. Do you want to bring that up?
Which one?
Zoning map, it's maybe fourth.
In the application or in the?
In the staff report. Yeah, we're addressing the staff report of this.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes, please.
what the applicant was requesting, Joe said that, or potentially going to do with this property wouldn't fit into the neighborhood conference concert or neighborhood business zone.
Would not is your first cut on that. I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you just told me.
Yeah, what could potentially be done in this property by the applicant and what they've talked about would not fit into neighborhood business zoning. So therefore, this would be the only zoning request that they could make.
Okay, to accommodate storage units. Because those wouldn't be considered a neighborhood business.
Correct.
Okay,
Not currently, it's as the way the zoning is written.
okay, so what, and it goes to the question we just heard. The yellow is small lot residential. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
And then whoops, now I've lost it. And the pink. Oh, dang it, I'm in trouble.
Commercial.
Is commercial, so if we go down south of Seaton, that's still in the county and it is zoned small lot residential. So that one block is that mixed, pink and yellow, the one that right above the word Seaton?
Yes, some of those lots are considered, or small lot residential, the rest of them are.
And so those storage units there in the southeast corner of that block north of the word Seaton are zoned small lot residential. The ones that are occupied by those big storage units. So are those non-conforming uses or grandfathered, or what do we know about those?
They're being assessed.
I would have to look
Really?
into that. I didn't look into
Okay,
those.
sorry, we heard different things. Mr. Willems, what did you
I
say?
would assume they were there before the zoning.
And they're currently being assessed as commercial by the assessor.
Okay, the assessor is
And
not,
Mr.
is
Chair,
not zoning, but go ahead.
to remind you, that the zoning designations on the 2015 update were taken from the 1997 assessor's information. So the land uses that they used for classification of taxation is where this zoning came from. So for whatever reason at that time, the assessor was zoned, or the classification for those properties was residential. And that's why it translated into that. Whether things changed after 1997, I can't tell you, but that's where the zoning designations originated.
Okay, well, let's see.
Unless there's been zoning changes since then.
And where I'm going with this, and as I read through this, if I look at this map, I have this small island of commercial surrounded by residential zoning.
Which is not uncommon.
Okay, but just so I'm clear what we're doing here, we can discuss the implications of that later in terms of how we dispose of this, but just so I'm clear, the current zoning is residential on all four sides. Well, no, that's not true. Okay. Within a block, we have residential zoning extending for some distance. We've got ag zoning off to the north. And then I asked in an email, again, just for context, what the city, well, let's save the city until later. Okay. Because I would like to examine it with respect to their zoning as well, as we are right at the interface. And I think that may be all I have by way of questions on the staff report. Just give me a minute here.
I'll have some questions after you're done.
Oh, then please go ahead while I'm looking through my notes here.
The city is not represented here tonight, is it? Are they?
I'll see the city folks.
Did you have any conversations with the city other than this letter? Or hear from them anyway?
We did talk about it just informally.
And what is the state of the IGA right now?
It is still being developed.
And yeah, I mean, it seems to me this is the sort of would be one of the key components of an IGA. What to do in a situation like this where staff for the county is contemplating one thing, the city has raised objection. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure the IGA is going to impact that.
I mean, that Matt here is not his head saying, agreeing with you. Those are my questions.
Okay, well then let us move on to public comment, and then I think we'll come back to this, and I think that it is important that we give the city due consideration, but we don't need to do that right now. So let's see what the public has to say, or the applicant, I'm sorry, our next step would be the applicant. Mr. Lidstrom, would you like to come up and give us your thoughts, staff or question? If you have a statement you'd like to make, go for it.
I'm supposed to tell you my name. Grant Lindstrom. I'm at 1651 Nottage Court. Okay, and I'm the applicant. We're just looking at putting in some storage units, and there may be the idea that maybe someone might run a business out of one of those, and so then commercial zoning seemed like it was more appropriate. So that's why we approached it. As far as notification, I just stuck it on the road that was closest right there. Than that, that's why I did that. I didn't even think about putting it on 9th Street. Although you send a letter to every adjoining landowner, so everybody that's around that is close to it knows about it, that it abuts to, I guess. So, and then I guess I know that in the comprehensive plan or the growth plan, it's single family residential. But if you go drive out there, I don't think there's very many people that would want to put their private residence in that location. It's just not. You got storage buildings all the way around you. You got a great big power line over the top of you. It would make much more sense that when you go to small lot, you go to Carroll, you go up to Asphalt Lane or something and make that a break point where we go from commercial to go to residential, go to the east a little ways off of 9th Street, and you could do the same thing before you get up, like farther to the east. It would make sense to me. And so I mean, I guess if you don't change the zoning, I'm going to do what everybody else does there and put up a private storage unit just like everybody else, and because because nobody's going to put a house there, and that you will want to sell and keep. So I just thought we were doing it the right way by saying, okay, we're going to do a commercial because and then we can have someone have a business there if they wanted to. So if you have questions, I'm open.
There was a question about water and sewer that came up earlier.
They haven't approached me. My personal opinion is I stay as far away from the city as I can, so I hadn't planned on it.
Sure.
Because if they give me water and sewer, I think they want to annex me,
I suspect,
and I don't want to do that.
annexation must loom over the whole
Yeah,
thing.
so
Geometrically.
we hadn't planned on city units.
Okay, Commissioner David.
Yeah, I have a question, business-wise. Does it make sense to take zoning that is already set up for building homes and turn it into commercial when it is clear that the city is needing land for building affordable housing and is likely to move north of town for that? Does it make a business sense to change something that is, I think it will be very difficult to change it back.
Oh, I would agree with that. I don't think it makes, I build homes for a living. And I would never put a home there and try and sell it. That is just not a location that I think anybody would want to own as a private residence next to all the storage buildings and 9th Street in addition to that. So it seems like from a business perspective, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I do residential building lots inside the city limits. And so I'm used to doing more residential than commercial. So from a business perspective, it doesn't make sense at all to put residential in that spot. Yes, at another location, it makes very much sense to do affordable housing. Because there is a need for that. But in this location, doesn't make a lot of sense just because I don't think there's a demand in that location. I wouldn't take the risk. Maybe somebody else would.
You've been doing this for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've developed a lot of property in Laramie.
Yeah, over 25 years.
That's what I thought.
So yeah, I've developed a lot of residential lots and I would never develop this for residential. It's just not, it's not attractive for people to buy. I mean, if you wanted to do it multifamily, you can stick a fourplex and if it's cheap enough rent, anybody will live in it because it's temporary. You know, so if the growth plan had multifamily residential there, then you might be able to argue that point and say, well, you give cheap enough rent, people live anywhere, even if it's ugly and there's a lot of storage buildings next to you. But single family, that's a whole nother thing. That's their livelihood. And that's how they got to resell it to somebody else that will live there too. So, but
Okay, other questions for Mr. Lindstrom? Could it just, while you're there, could I ask Mr. Gersh, the current zoning is small lot residential. Is it single family or what would be allowed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the only zoning district that we would allow for multifamily is commercial, right?
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, but how many homes can you build on 1.27 acres?
well, if you look at the plat, there's 9 lots in there.
Yeah, there's 9 lots.
There's 9 lots. So,
Montague.
but they're 50 feet wide and they're 180 feet deep, I think. So they were developed before you had cars back in the 1800s. So you didn't have a garage, you didn't have, so it's 50 feet wide
So there are-
and you had a garden and stuff in the back. So they're not very useful sized lots either.
Gotcha.
So the big shed that's on the northwest corner, is that a
Storage facility, yeah, that's,
just a personal storage facility?
yes, and that's with another part of the applicant is Larry Jenkins, and Larry has that.
Yeah.
And so that's just a personal storage facility, yeah. And it was, he could do that because it's personal use, it's just his personal storage shed.
So that was compatible with small lot
Yeah.
residential zoning.
So,
Yeah, you could put a outbuilding on any property.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had. Anybody else? Well, so just looking at the map, has there been discussion of annexation? I mean, it just seems odd that we've got this little keyhole down into the city. What, do you know anything about that? Just for our background?
no, I don't know. The only reason I bought it because it wasn't in the city.
Okay.
If it would have been in the city, I wouldn't have bought it.
None of these properties have contiguity to the city.
So there's a little bit in between.
Great. No, mine was just, as I say, just a general question of how this keyhole happened. You know, it's a history of the city and how it developed. I don't know that it's necessarily your domain, just out of my interest. What is all the glass scattered across that place?
At some point, there must have been some kind of a disposal that they had a lot of junk there. And there's a lot of metal and stuff too. So I don't know what they dismembered there. That was a way long time before I did it. Somebody asked how long the storage units to the south have been there. I've been here 34 years and it was before I got here. So they've been there forever. These other buildings are probably over 20.
I was just curious, Mr. Ayers.
Yeah, I suppose going back to an earlier question, the assessor has those listed, all those mini warehouses in the property to the south as 1970 for the year built.
Oh, okay. Well, they look like they've got some years on them. I think we all agree.
Yeah.
Right, that's all I had. Anybody else? Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And we'll now open it to public comments. If you would like to comment on this application, how you feel we should dispose of it, please come forward, state your name, and share your opinions with us. Anybody? Going once, going twice? Right, I guess I'm open to a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second,
I'll second.
and move and second to close the public hearing. For the discussion, all in favor of that motion, aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. Okay. Back to us. Well, I guess let's start with the most obvious question from Mr. Gerch. Elaborate a little bit on your response to the city's objection. They were strident, maybe a little bit too strong a word, but not much. We strongly disagree, I believe were the phrases, but, how do you see this as being compatible? And I think you suggested in your staff comments that perhaps the change in along the growth plan would be appropriate.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, I guess my take would be on this situation, these properties here is when we're putting together a comprehensive plan or a growth plan or plans of that nature, we take a big brush, right? It's a big brush and we're gonna just brush, this should be commercial, this should be residential. And oftentimes, I don't think we get into maybe some of the details of the properties of what's actually going on in some of these areas. This is an already developed area much of it's already developed. Honestly, you can consider all of this developed if you can consider a subdivision developed. So all of this has these little 50-foot wide lots that are in the vicinity. Not very many of the folks, there are some that have developed them for residential purposes. I think there's one person at the end that has developed that, and they've set their house back away from where the power line and the right of way and everything is. And
No, which one are you referring to?
there's a house back on Carroll. It's if you go all the way, it's not on. I don't know if it shows on the map. Well, it should on the bigger map. Yeah, to the east.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
So that's the one property out there that's developed for a residence or as a residential property. But the rest of them are either empty or they've put their personal storage buildings on them. We didn't, when these plans were put together, we didn't look at the giant, the high voltage, power lines that go right through that right of way. So I guess my take is, we take the big brush. So these are general guidance documents, comp plan, the growth plan, they're general guidance documents. And so they're not perfect. I think it's when we get these individual, applications that come in that we can take a greater look at this. And so the city and their point of view is anything that is nearby the city should annex and hook into water and sewer, which this property couldn't even do that at this time because it does not meet the state criteria of being contiguous. It is not contiguous to the city of Laramie. So that's not even in the toolbox for the developer or the applicants at this time. That's not something they can even do. So this request really is just kind of following what's going on out there already. Does it meet the plans super well? Well, generally it may meet the criteria for rural commercial, but we've had that discussion as well. But this is an area where what is being wanted to happen is this, changes to commercial is really meets every criteria, other than the comprehensive plan. Even that we can say that it's generally following that by some of the things I pointed out. I don't think you can say that it's, again, like a comprehensive plan. I think it was brought up in a previous meeting. It's like, well, I could say something different about the comp plan. So, that's what a comp plan is. It gives us some general policies to follow, but the specifics come down to the regulations and some of these other questions. So it's that's one aspect of this application. But I believe every other impact has been totally explained. I think it meets with all of those. So yeah,
So were you changing the growth plan to include commercial? Would you, again, we're wandering a bit, but it's relevant to my discussion, my thinking about this anyway. Would you include that whole series of lots that front on 9th Street? Or would you?
Yes.
But how far east would you go? At some point, do you feel that it becomes appropriate to remain small lot residential?
I would probably go, 2 blocks in or so. I mean, that would be sufficient, to kind of follow what's already down below. Kind of the pattern of commercial that's already there. So that would be how far I would probably go out, would recommend.
Sure, may I?
Yeah, well, the one other thing I wanted to do was to look at the city zoning. Just to try to remind myself of where they were on this. It was a problem we had with the maps in the Laramie area growth plan don't tell you what's the city zoning. Okay, that's what you've brought up here, Mr. Williams. So I guess the relevant thing to me here is, again, that the city is being consistent with its objection in that both the brown area to the left and the purple area to the right are residential zones in the city. Am I reading that map correctly?
Yeah, one of them's like mobile home,
Multifamily and
family mobile home, something or other, and
well, at the bottom of the map, there's like, or the key is on the map. Again, I'd like to just, this gives us the context for our piece. The city is arguing that it's most compatible with the residential areas that surround it, barring the small piece of commercial zoning. So I'm asking myself, is that a fair representation by the city? So am I reading the map correctly, Mr. Williams? Or do you?
I have no idea. I don't know the city's zones. I don't know the city's zoning
Don't
rules.
don't we have the key to this map as part of the map?
Oh, we do, but that doesn't, tell us much, right?
Well, it would tell us.
The brown is medium density residential with independent manufactured homes.
Okay,
Obviously some sort of residential.
okay, that's all I'm looking for.
Purple, there's different purples on here. So.
It's residential also.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Right, again, I'm just trying to, let's give the city its due. And this is a residential area with a small enclave of commercial, which Mr. Gertz is arguing is appropriate because it's beside the road and there are these storage units that have been there for a while. Okay,
Sure.
Mr. David, please.
Following up on this. If you scroll the map a little bit to the east, you will see that this is an area that the city is developing and the tech park is coming in. If you haven't biked those trails, you should. They're really fun. Going all the way to 15th Street, and I actually made a mistake and ended up biking with my dogs all the way to 9th Street from one of these, I guess it's Carroll Street. I think the city is moving very fast, developing the north part of town. Anything that is off the aquifer, that is not going into the commercial side of the west. If the city is objecting, they probably have a good reason. And I think that if we change this lot to commercial, what we might be doing is preventing the city from turning it into a shopping center. So not everybody has to drive all the way to Walmart or Safeway. I mean, if this side of town is developing, there will be, shops and gardens and playgrounds and other things there. I don't know that we should ignore the city's concerns. One. The second thing is, are we doing long-term planning, or are we just, trying to put out fires? I think we need, as a county, and the city, to take the Laramie growth area plan that was poorly made, which is why I voted against it at the time. It was very poorly made, without consideration to all these things, and revisit it and create a better plan that takes into account exactly what we need. We need affordable housing in this county. We need more commercial in the sense of supporting these. So I think we should go back and look at the growth area plan with a more fine detailed planning, not just the that was, as you said just a few minutes ago, was poorly done.
Okay, so where are you with respect to the applications before us? Are you lobbying for or against?
I think that at the rate that the city is changing and developing north, it will be a business mistake by the applicant to even try to change it into a commercial.
Okay.
That's my take on this.
Mr. Chair.
Just to give this some focus, we do have an application in front of us
Yes.
that we'll have to dispose of, so I'm counting that as a, please vote no. Yeah. Okay, thank you,
Yeah,
Mr. Garrett.
I just want to, in my opinion, I don't think the plan was poorly done. I just think that planning in general is a general process that you take broad strokes and that's what happens. You don't look at every single property and it's just, you can't do that, right?
I disagree.
So,
May I interject and say that I disagree?
Let's let him finish, please.
and the other comment that I would just address too is, I mean, yes, the city has their plans for some of these places like the tech park and those types of things. They are developing in theirs, but there has to be a private landowner that is also willing and wanting this to happen. That property was purchased, the tech park was purchased by, I can't remember if it was the city or the economic development folks, but the city owns it. So like, I don't, you know,
As the city
it takes
let us-
two parts, a private developer and, you know, the regulatory framework. They have to work together to make something happen.
Which is what the city letter says, that the growth area plan was developed in collaboration with private landowners. The letter says that if you read it.
Well, and it's true. Like it was, the discussions were had with the major landowners all around the city. But these folks, I can guarantee they weren't contacted. They're not major landholders, right? So I believe that was a true statement that folks were contacted and talked to about the plan. But I'm pretty sure these guys weren't. So like any of these little properties right here. So
Yeah, I mean, there were plenty of opportunities for public comment, but people took advantage of that or not as they pleased. That's a different story. Okay, other thoughts on how we proceed here? I think Ms. Cornick, you've got something to throw in here.
Well, I mean, I want to be respectful of the city's position, but this isn't the city. And I agree with Mr. Gertz. I mean, the growth area plan is a tool. It's not, you know, it's not our master. It's a tool that we can use, right? And I go by that property all the time and I agree with Mr. Lindstrom that nobody's going to build a nice house there. I think it's very compatible with what's going on there. So I don't have a problem with this.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hanning?
No, I agree with Commissioner Kokornik that it doesn't seem like a good parcel to put residences, you know, especially under this high transmission electric line.
Yeah.
And I guess the only thing, and if the city was thinking this, they didn't say it. Just when you think about the idea of future growth going north, and more residential areas, just whether or not there's gonna be anything that can impinge on running utilities out to serve future housing. But it seems like there's probably easements and right of ways all over the place to take utilities. So that's the only thing I would worry about with future wanting to support future housing growth that is on city utilities, would be to make sure that this doesn't somehow stymie that. But like I said, I gotta believe easements and right of ways would take care of getting your utility out.
Okay,
Can I add one more thing?
please go ahead.
You're looking at Albany County as it looks today. You're planning Albany County for the next 10 to 15 years. What it looks today to Commissioner Kokornik as she drives by may not look like this in 5 years. Our goal needs to be to plan the future of Albany County to the best of our abilities with the best data we have available to make things look and work right in 15 years, not today. And so what I'm looking at is a complete revamping of the north side of town that will be an amazing neighborhood. That a sore thumb in the middle will be a commercial storage facility. That's what I see, because I'm looking at a plan to the future, not how we look today.
That's kind of the definition of a plan.
Could I just,
All right, let's let Mr. Platt have his two bits, or we'll make another round.
I just
Go
wanted to
ahead.
respond
Okay,
to
go ahead.
Okay, so under the commercial zone, you can have residential uses. Now, Mr. Lindstrom owns this land. If at some point it becomes a viable neighborhood, he can change it. You can still do residential on commercial land. It's not committed to storage units forever. It's his property. It's not going to have a negative impact now that I can see. And he will make whatever business direct decisions he makes and not our decisions.
I fully agree on that.
So I don't see that we're locking it in forever. Never, there's never going to be a neighborhood there. It's just not what he wants to do right now, and he owns it. So.
Thank you, Mr. Platt.
I'll just push back on one thing that Ms. Bendaver said. I don't think it's a support plan. It's adopted by the county and the city. I think it's a good plan and decent implementation. Along the lines of what Mr. Birch said, the map was done with broad strokes. And if you look at the various boundaries for various designations within the Laramie Growth Area Plan, a lot of the lines are frankly arbitrary. If you look at the map and look at some of the commercial centers to be proposed and developed at major road intersections, you'll see they're purely schematic, in fact. I mean, they're just circles. And if you look towards the end of the plan, it does contemplate that the plan will undergo changes and amendments. And that minor changes and amendments can be done administratively or suggested as such. And we're talking about a 1.3 acre parcel of land, which the proposed use seems to fully fit in with what is being used in the area right now. I think it's very unlikely that would be developed for single family residential. There has been no development in that area for a long, long time. That's not where lots are being developed right now. And, if someone like Mr. Lindstrom has been in the business for as long as he has, says it's unlikely, I think we ought to borrow from his wisdom and experience. So, Mr. Chairman, with that said, I would like to move to recommend the Board of County Commissioners approvals,
Are we done with the discussion?
No,
Children
we
have-
have no, but a motion is will then be
Well,
on the subject of
thing was there.
discussion, but Mr.
I would
Platt
like
can bring it
to
to a head if he pleases. Go right ahead.
Move to recommend to the Albany County Board of Commissioners approval of this zoning district amendment,
Lindstrom.
ZDA-03-24.
Incorporating and so forth. I think our
Incorporating,
the staff has given us a model motion.
Finds of fact.
Okay. Right, understand. This motion will be subject to discussion. This is by no means making a motion preclude discussion. In fact, can focus it usefully. Is there a second for this motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the floor. Now we're open for discussion. Right, just to share my concern with this, and maybe I remain on the fence, but when I step back, what I see is residential use, north, south, east, and west. And there's this small area of existing commercial use that we were told we kind of inherited when the plan first came along. And as any of these boundaries, you stand, as I did, you stand on this property and look northeast, what you see is open prairie and then a fairly fancy house up on the hill. And that seems quite attractive. Now you've got a big power line here over your shoulder. As Commissioner Platt has said, certainly Mr. Lindstrom has a better sense of the market right now than I propose to, but how do you ever make the transition. If this is A and this is B, well, because, and you look to the A and say, well, then we'll take a little more out of B, and then, well, then now the movie's here, and then the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. At some point, one has to draw lines and say, we're not in that zone anymore. Otherwise, the zoning rate doesn't mean a whole lot. So I come down sympathetic to preserving the general larger compatibility of the area, which is residential. It's not a very attractive place right now. But that can change. And I agree with Commissioner Ben David that part of planning is to try to guide to that change through appropriate land use restrictions, to be fair. So that's how I look at this and why I wanted to look at the city zoning. Yes, there are a couple blocks there that are not the most attractive, and they've been dedicated to storage over the years. But to have that then carry the surrounding area in increasingly rippling increments, I have some reluctance to go along with. All right, that's right. We have a motion on the floor. Other discussion of that motion?
Well, one other point, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Again, this is only 1.3 acres. In the larger context of long-term growth of the city, I don't want to minimize it, but it's fairly small stuff. And if you believe it's likely to lead to some enormous expansion of that commercial area, well, that's a different, that would be a different story, but I think it's quite unlikely.
May I respond to that?
Please.
1.3 acres plus another 0.3 acres plus another acre plus another acre. What is the plan? Power line overhead. In 10 years, we are all going to be microgrids. There's no going to be power line. How do you know, right? That's a dream, but it might come true. I mean, we need to think long term. And I think our responsibility is to create an environment in Albany County that will, yes, respect the rights of private landowners, but also look at the broad picture. And we have not been doing this. Ever since I've been on this commission, we have not been looking at a growth plan that is a valid one, in my opinion. I'm sorry, I know I differ in opinion from all of you, and I know that it took a lot of work to come up with a growth area, but I still will repeat. I think as a commission, we are failing to look into how we can make this place the best place for all the residents of Albany County in the future.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, I apologize.
So all comments are appropriate, and we were all appointed by the board to represent various points of view, and we bring different backgrounds and expertise to the table. There's a motion on the floor. Are there further discussion of that motion? At some point, we put it to a vote. Are we there? Sounds like yes. Okay, the motion is to approve the application to change.
Did we get a second or not, Mr. Chairman?
We did a second. Ms. Hanning, just a second. All right. How do you vote, Ms. Hanning?
Aye.
Mr. Platt?
Aye.
Ms. Kokornik?
Aye.
Ms. Ben David?
Nay.
Mr. Hinckley? Nay. The motion carries on a 3-2 vote. Thank you very much for a lively discussion. And that will proceed with that recommendation to the county commissioners, who will basically also take additional public comment as they find appropriate, and then that will be the final decision, short of an appeal. So I think we're done with that. If anybody was here for that discussion would like to leave, they are welcome to, although we also welcome your attendance at the remainder of our meeting, should you see something of interest on the agenda. Okay. Moving into current planning projects, we have a staff report on new zoning districts. Mr. Williams.
Yes. So at last regular meeting, it was discussed that breaking up the current residential zoning district should be looked into. So this draft is being provided for additional review and discussion. At the point the Planning and Zoning Commission feels comfortable with these amendments, staff is ready to schedule them for a public hearing. These amendments provide 2 brand new zoning districts and also shrinks the scope of the current rural residential district. With this proposal, the land use table, sign regulations, accessory dwelling standards, and the zoning map all need to be addressed as well. And staff has provided their recommendation for those aspects of the zoning resolution. So, I guess the first one, we have it titled agricultural residential. The density is 20, 1 dwelling per 20 acres. Minimum lot size is 10 acres. Minimum lot frontage would be 100 feet. Setbacks for structures would be 10 feet for property lines, 50 feet for wells, and whatever the standard is for wastewater. 1 dwelling unit per parcel. The next one would be rural residential, which would be 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres, minimum lot size of 5 acres. Frontage is 100 feet. Setbacks are 10 feet from property lines for structures. Setbacks for wells are 50 and 1 dwelling unit per parcel. And then ranchette would be density of 5 acres, minimum lot size of 2 acres, minimum frontage is 100 feet. Structure setback would be 10 feet, setback from wells 50 feet. And then, so we would carry over, this proposal carries over the current allowed by right conditional use permit and prohibited classifications for the rural residential to the agricultural residential and ranchette zoning districts, so they would all be the same.
Say that again.
So what the land use table currently shows for rural residential would fit all 3 of these zoning districts. The only changes to chapter 5, section 8 would be adding these new zoning districts into the current, what would be currently rural, small lot, and urban residential zoning districts, and that's for the signs. And then for accessory dwelling units, we have agricultural residential for 20 acres, rural residential for 10, and ranchette for 5. And then I guess the big one would be all currently zoned rural residential lots would be now ranchette, which would be the 2, minimum of 2, average of 5, because that's what they currently are. And then we're not assigning any of the new zoning districts to the map because that would have to go through a lot larger of a process. And that's really why you haven't seen the commercial zoning yet.
Okay. So just quick clarification is one would acquire these 2 new residential zones through zoning district amendment.
Yes,
Just from
right now they would. We're working on a full overhaul of zoning districts and land use table and map, but that's obviously a lot bigger of a process. So.
Though they would come out of ag is how that would have to work. Because anybody who's currently zoned rural residential would stay in your smallest class.
Well, they could change.
They could change to go to a larger one if they wanted to, but we wouldn't be doing that, would be the proposal.
Right now.
Right.
Correct.
So under this proposal,
they would stay where they are.
how one but that one could come in for a zoning change from ag to one of these.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're making that option available to.
Yes.
That's what we're doing, just so we're clear. Okay. Questions for Mr. Welch?
But you could also do rural residential to one of these new.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, you could go either way.
Or what would be
Yeah.
ranchette, I guess now. Yes.
Right.
We have seen rarely someone, we call that upzoning, I don't know which is up and which is down,
Yeah.
but occasionally someone says, I don't want to be rural residential, I want to be ag zone.
That did happen, yeah.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Pyatt?
Well, just a statement, no surprise, I'm solidly for this. Long overdue, I'm glad to see it's come to us.
Thoughts, Ms. Henning,
Mr.
please?
Chair, thanks for working on this. One question I have about whether we can add this in, it seems like one of the problems we have is with multifamily units being zoned commercial. And that's always sort of presenting us with a conundrum when people come in wanting to zone commercial to put multifamily. Do you think there's a way, or have you, in discussing developing this, did the idea of having a zoning that's residential for multifamily to just cut it out of the commercial concept? Is that a possibility?
Well, Commissioner Hanning, I mean, I would just say that this was to address the large gap between rural residential and ag. And then, you know, small lot residential to kind of give some more variance there. I think that is like much lower down, you know, on your use table. So I think that would be more appropriate to discuss during a revamp of the commercial district.
Okay, so
It could be some, because it would
put
be,
that in when we look at commercial.
yeah, I think naturally multifamily development would be much smaller.
Right. Okay, I can live with that.
It's
Thanks.
coming.
Yeah, what you suggested is something that we'll definitely do. It just makes more sense.
Okay, thank you.
And then you have maintained the idea of average lot size, minimum lot size in the ratios that we see in the current rural residential. That was the concept here.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
just
5 and 2,
35,
10 and,
yeah.
Go for it.
so in the 20, minimum lot size 10, but density of 20. So remind us how that works. I even under the current zoning, so I have a 40-acre piece, and I want to, well, whatever the number was, so I do rural residential, I can do 7 2s and a 26, right?
Yes.
Then does that 26, does it kind of carry that burden forward forever? I've never been clear on how that works.
No, so basically these, the density, the minimum lot size, those are really for subdivisions. And then once you have, say you have the 7 lots and the 1 lot of 26, it could fall under the dwelling units per parcel. And it would still be 1. So I guess the 7 lots could have 1 and the 26 acres could have 1.
But
That makes sense.
I guess my concern is I sell the 26 acres to somebody else. Can they then come in and subdivide because they're now in a rural residential?
Oh, well, yeah,
So
they could, but they'd have to go through a different process. They'd have to go through, I mean, no matter what, because it's already part of a subdivision, they would have to go through the major process. And they would still have to follow the acreage.
right, I mean, I guess, do you see I'm just
I
trying to.
understand what you're saying,
Average
yeah.
versus
No,
minimum, it
absolutely.
seems like there's a fairly easy way around that seeming. The idea is cluster your development, put everybody over here and
Right.
make these open space. But unless you can carry that concept forward, it's kind of cosmetic and it's quite easily defeated by simply selling off the large lot, and subdividing.
Did we not address this somewhere? Like,
I know we talked.
I know we've talked about this. That's why I'm like, I'd have to go back
It might
and
be
look,
in
because
the-
like that's a good point, because we don't want them to be able to further divide it.
That is the point, so.
Maybe we just,
I know we talked about it.
maybe it's in our subdivision regulations. I don't know, but that's a good point. We definitely need to look into that.
Okay, that just as comments on the draft here, that's one that I would like to tangle that knot and somehow. It's an existing zoning question as well as the one posed here that brings it to a head is not have this concept that can be so easily
I mean,
defeated.
that would obviously be different regulations, though. That would be in the subdivision regulations.
Okay, well, let's put that on your think about list of where we don't need to solve it right now. That seems like a sensible suggestion, but then we would like to see that subdivision companionable with the zoning. And again, that's a concept that I think we would all embrace. Of this idea of clustered development is where that comes from, as long as it can be maintained.
I mean, typically like, true clustering development is that bigger lot's gonna be like open space or something like that. And then you designate that, and then you can't really do anything because that's how it's designated, But in this situation, it's different because it's just another lot.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely need to like look at this a little bit closer.
Okay, well, that would be let's look at that concept and have we faithfully embodied it? So that, again, and putting in the person who bought the small lot and thought, oh, this is great. I've got this big open space. They have reason to expect that to be preserved. So what's the thought here? This would, are we looking for putting this out for comment at this point?
You want to?
Okay, what do my colleagues think? You want to chew on this a bit? It's, I share in the applause for Mr. Wells, putting this together quickly, and Mr. Platt, I know you had some input to that. It was certainly responsive to our concerns with our main meeting last month. So it shows how nimble and responsive these guys can be, which is great.
David, what would your recommendation do as far as action we should take?
My recommendation?
Yep.
Or do you guys feel like? Honestly, it would be nice to get this on the books. So, I mean, is the quicker the better. But I mean, if we need to discuss some things, then obviously we'll want to do it right as well. So.
If you guys have any glaring issues, like, let's take care of them.
Yeah.
Well, I've expressed mine. What do others feel?
I don't have any issues beyond what you just mentioned.
Yeah, I'd like to see a schedule for a public hearing. Move.
And we just so happen to be in a lucky month that we can do it next regular meeting. So if you want to.
Okay, Mr. Adams, please.
Looking through the subdivision resolution, I think that the only kind of safeguard to your concern that we built in there is if you're that 65 whatever acre parcel, you have to go through the major subdivision process. There's no way that you can get a minor subdivision. But I would think that the fix to your solution largely would be also then putting ceilings on lot sizes. So you have minimum, maximum, get rid of average.
Yeah, I guess I don't see that.
Because then you're saying you can't have the 60 foot or 63. If
You
you're
couldn't
creating a
have
subdivision.
2 acres and 126 is what.
No,
he said.
but that's what, I mean, the point of having a minimum and an average is exactly that, is to have 7 twos and a 26. That was the idea, isn't it?
Yeah, for flexibility. So like, I mean, somebody comes in and like, well, this whole area can't really be developed, so I might as well just use this as a big lot and then,
Right.
Use it other areas, which, I mean, it's helpful for developers. They just have more options that way. It's a little more flexible.
Well, but then they would have to, that wouldn't be zoned along with the rest of those parcels. Because you're saying within this district, this is the biggest lot size. So they have to keep it in the, higher zoning district where the lot size or maximum lot sizes permit something that large. And then it doesn't get to be where you change the entire platted area to a certain zoning district, just those lots which are sort of truly the subdivision.
All right, let's say, I'm not sure I'm tracking. Let's follow my analogy. I come in with 40 acres and I want to do 7 twos and a 26, if I did my math right. Your suggestion is we would say you can't do a 26, you can only do a 10.
You can do the 26, but it has to be kept in a different zoning district. It doesn't follow with the 7 twos. Because it has to meet the maximum lot size of the zoning district that it's going to be in. So it's going to have to stay ag or whatever. And then those 7 twos are residential.
So we would require the zoning change to ag for the open space piece.
Yeah, which we have seen where a zoning district amendment or zoning district amendment application has 2 different zoning districts as part. So it's not.
And we can zone a 2 acre plot ag. There's no.
Well, to make that fix, you put maximums. And so you put a minimum, maximum. Your minimum isn't gonna fit ag. It can't be ag. It's 2 acres.
But my 26 is less than our standard ag.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, for use of that, just make it 36 for the discussion. Because I don't want to go off of these new ones. But it's the same thing. It would have to be in a different zoning district for that larger piece. If you put maximums on zoning districts as well.
But if, I'm a little confused because if you have to hit an average, doesn't that average have to all be within the same zoning district?
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. But what's the sense of that, 26 acre lot going small lot residential? So you can make the maximums decently permissive. So there is room for like that averaging effect, but I mean, just having a wholesale like 35 acre parcel, so it can really just throw off that average. That's a different story.
Yeah, I don't think I understand.
Okay, it sounds to me like that needs some more development. It's something that we're gonna come up with on the fly now.
If this got noticed for public hearing, would working out the details on how to address that be a substantive change?
Yeah, most likely. And I mean, these going forward or not going forward doesn't change that. That's something which would need to be addressed across the entire spectrum, not just these 3
Right.
districts. So maybe keep that as a separate idea, would be my recommendation.
Has this ever happened? The scenario that you have where the 26 gets divided up into 2 because somebody else.
I can think of one where they kept really large part on the north, but because of other aspects of our zoning.
But they didn't come
resolution-
back in and divide it, but they haven't come back in and divided it.
Well, and it's also undevelopable under
Yeah,
our zoning resolution. So it happens. It's, I would say probably not. They're not like extreme instances.
I haven't seen it.
But the ability to do that is already
Yeah,
is already there. So it's not really related to dividing up rural residential.
No, that's true. I guess my pitch is let's take this opportunity to
Yeah.
we're not gonna redo all the zoning. I mean, understand we're trying to do a specific change here. I'm just a little reluctant to do it quite this quickly. We've had this in front of us for 4 or 5 days now. Is my only pushback against Mr. Platt's suggestion. My preference would be that we let this perk along in another increment. It's not critical. The reason I asked Mr. Barnard last month what his timeline was, and I appreciate his honesty, was like to get it done this year. Now, months go by in a hurry. Pardon me.
No, it was.
So I guess I'd like to take a little more time to think this through and see if it's an appropriate time to make some other adjustments in our subdivision regulations that would be compatible with this. Again, that's just where I am. Others?
Sounds like there's a lot more work to be done. It might be good to get some public input before all that work is done. I mean, I think people are gonna find these to be useful tools, and it's hard to, can't really think of a reason to object to it, but it would be nice to know what people are thinking before you go through all the other zones and try to.
and Mr. Chair, you can always, take a 15 acre lot, apply for a zoning change and subdivide it again, even if that was one of the, typical lot sizes within that subdivision.
Right. No, if
So,
someone takes a 20 and divides it into 2 10s under a rural residential zone, then either of those 10s can come forward and chop it in half again.
yeah,
Right. And we understand that. To Ms. Kokornik's point, public comment is not restricted to the 30-day official window preceding a public hearing. Anybody was welcome to come to this meeting. In fact, we may have some people who wanted to comment on this by virtue of receiving the packet. So let's not think that that's our only opportunity. Do things attract more public attention when they're posted for public hearing? I guess I'd defer to you guys. I think this is kind of a problem with public comment in general. What does it take to alert the public to something that we're doing to see if there are useful comments out there?
We don't want to use those types of tactics. Like, it's usually like when something happens they really, really don't like. So that's when they show up. It is very difficult to get people to come to public meetings. I mean, we've held public meetings for a lot of the different things we do. Honestly, like, the growth plan was probably some of the best attended public meetings that we've had. The other thing we did during the growth plan is we went to the people. We went to farmers markets and those types of things. And we also met with like stakeholders, different groups, we invited people from the South Laramie Water and Sewer District and, the bike clubs and all these things. I mean, that's how you get more impact when it comes to, public engagement. So, I mean, to put it in the paper, you're just not going to get a whole lot. We could try to blast it as much as we could to other people, other venues through social media. I mean, we could do radio ads, we could do whatever we want to do, but I mean, I think maybe the best way in this situation is to send it out specifically to those engineers, developers, and those others that we deal with these things regularly and get their input. That might be the best way to do it, and not just like a public hearing or a public meeting. But
I'm certainly sympathetic to that. I think I agree with Ms. Karnick. Let's get some other ideas on this. I just have this. I mean, we thought this up. Well, that's not fair. I mean, we came to a head was somewhat.
Yes.
And let's say, which I appreciate that we can respond quickly to that, but let us not respond too quickly.
Well, Mr. Chair, but we've been encountering this for previous months.
And we've been working on this for 8 months. This is exactly what we had in our proposal. So
Is our next meeting on the 7th of August?
14th.
14th? Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion then.
You're welcome to.
I move to recommend that we notice this proposed change to the zoning district amendment, proposed zoning district amendments to the zoning resolution for our August 14th meeting.
Set a public
Try and move forward.
Set a public hearing.
Public hearing notice it for a public hearing for August 14th.
That's a fair motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we post this proposal for public comment for the required 30 days and hold public hearing, understanding that we may decide to move forward at that point or not. All right, discussion of the motion is, I think it's been moving a bit too quickly, but maybe that's just my slow thinking. So others like to speak to this motion before we take a vote? If not, go down the list. Ms. Hanning,
Aye.
Mr. Platt.
Aye.
Ms. Kokornik.
Aye.
Ms. David.
Aye.
Hinckley, no. Motion carries. Let's post that for public hearing. Next item, the zoning resolution comparison document. Mr. Gertsch.
All right, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. This was presented to your last regular meeting, and since then, I was asked to go through and pick up some stragglers throughout the plan and add to it. I believe I caught most of them. So I don't know if you looked it over and compared it or whatever. But this is what I came up with or this just includes the additions that I found through that research and those that were already brought up at the meeting I had. Let's see, so yeah, this is here for discussion and direction with what to do with it.
Okay. I guess as one of the proponents of this, I appreciate the efforts that you've gone in to do that and think it's a valuable benchmark document as we move forward with the CAP. I don't have much to say beyond that. Besides, thank you for doing that. I think it'll be helpful for us going forward, and certainly if we are challenged in some aspect of our disposition of the CAP, it would be useful to have something like this in front of us so we know what we're doing. Remind ourselves we're doing. Thoughts, comments, suggestions, corrections?
And just, on vulnerable features, I thought we had taken out the phrase "at the ground surface."
Probably did.
Good,
I
good.
mean, it was taken out of what we sent forward, but it probably didn't make it into this.
Okay,
So, cause I was looking at new things, I didn't go back and edit that, so I can edit that.
okay.
That's not a big
Because
deal.
this version is supposed to be what we sent forward, right? The middle column here. It should be the latest version of what we were working on.
Sure, yes. Yeah, but this didn't go to the Board of County Commissioners. I guess that's what I'm saying, but I can make that change.
And I assume this is somewhat of a living document. I mean, we need to draw the line out of it as people find things. That's why I'm thinking of this as a reference document. But no, this isn't something that we are recommending adoption of. Is that correct?
It's a tool.
Yeah. Is that correct, Mr. Urch? This is
Yes, right,
going forward to the board
Correct.
for approval.
right, correct.
That was my understanding. Thank you. So, yeah, if others, as you work with this, I did not go back and do a piece by piece. I don't know that I'll have time to do that. I think it's a good piece of work and we've all done that many times. So I'm pleased to see where it's going. All right, further thoughts on that? Then if not, let's move on to your next item.
All right. Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. So this was the CAP recommendations list. So basically there's 3 components right now. Honestly, when I have more time, I want to put it into one document. So it's just like I have this whole checklist of all the different recommendations. But I didn't do that. So I did take what I provided you last time was the chapter 4 section about recommended additional city and county investigations. And then instead of, I had that chart in there, I think I took that out and I just added what was actually in the CAP. So you see both the city and the county's recommendations. So there's just a few that were just for the city, but this is the entire chart. So I added that and removed that other chart, or what I was working on. And then I went through, at Mr. Chair's suggestion and looked for everywhere it said recommended.
Word search.
Yep, and made a list. So, and you can see there's some of these things that showed up in different chapters, like multiple, or throughout the document in different areas. So I just kind of put and I'm not sure if I condensed them all. This was a quick throw together, but yeah, that's what I did. Has all of those things that were specifically in the CAP that I could find. And again, I would like to take this document and then put it into just one document. So, and then it kind of has a checklist on the side or whatever. So we could just work through those and you know, this body can come up with priorities. Mr. Chair talked about one of his priorities, which was, I think, more study. I don't know.
I'm not gonna blame them.
Yeah. But anyways, it was looking into the grants and some funding for some of the stuff. So, which I mean is obviously a great thing to look into. But yeah, so that's for you, and you guys want to pick a few things tonight, or if we just want to look at this, or give me some more time to put it all into one document, whatever we would like to do with this. So.
I guess my thought was that the next step is the logical one would be to then prioritize it in some way.
Sure.
Just so that, and that's something obviously we need a lot of input from you. It's easy to make everything first priority.
Right.
But that's unrealistic and we have limited resources, high quality resources though they are. That would be my thought, is that we continue to move this forward to try to to bring some kind of prioritization to it. Maybe at the next meeting, if you're gonna put it in a table, that would be we give them a 1 through 5 or something and so
Yeah,
see where we think we can most usefully proceed. That sound reasonable?
Sure.
Okay. And I don't know, maybe it just as you're doing that, is kind of a level of effort, is I'm kind of picturing this matrix. You tell us, oh yeah, if you make this first priority, we'll get back to you in 10 years versus, oh yeah, piece of cake, I can knock that off in the afternoon. There might be some value to us of knowing what we're biting off. And obviously some of these were big, long-term,
Sure.
huge recommendations. All right, other thoughts on how to wade into implementing that cap that we worked so hard on?
Mr. Chair, thanks. I guess what struck me about looking at the list is how much of this involves the city. And, we had a really great collaborative effort going on getting the cap in place, but it seems like we need to rejuvenate that and figure out how to work together again on, for example, they awarded a contract for the monitoring network, and I know you added that to the agenda, but like having input on trying to help guide how that monitoring plan looks to benefit the county residents in addition to the city, city stakeholders on public supply wells. We also want to look at what we can do for county residents with that. But it just seems like we need to, like I said, rejuvenate what we were doing with the city so we can agree on priorities and know what they're moving forward on or not moving forward on. And I don't know what we can do about that.
Do we have any sense of that? Or are they doing something similar to this? I would like to think they are. Do we know?
I'm not sure. I know that the well monitoring program's on their top of their list since they're doing something with it, but other than that, I'm not sure where they're at. I mean, I know their planning staff, they adopted the new boundary. And then they have other things I think they're working on. So I'm not sure if this is somewhere in their priority list or not, but I can have a conversation just to see what's going on capital-wise. So.
Do you have an opportunity? You meet with those guys semi-regularly? Yeah. I guess.
Yeah, we pull out the boxing gloves every once in a while.
Okay.
So,
Well, why don't you share with them what we're doing and ask them what they're doing?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Carrie, Commissioner Hanning's concerned that we all move in the similar direction. And I think, whether it's another joint prioritization or what, I don't know, but I absolutely, the whole point of that was we were moving forward two bodies together.
Yeah, I think that's a really good suggestion. I think if we're really going to make something work in what we're trying to do with this plan, it needs to be an effort that we're both part of it. We're both pulling the same way. And yeah, we don't want it to be, we were so great with the cap and now we're done. So it's not super effective.
Mr. Chair, may I ask again to have a visit to all the city facilities?
Okay, that's the next item on our agenda. Well, let's.
No, I think
hold that thought.
I think it fits here really well because that's how it's not just Mr. Gertz has to go talk to, but how we build personal relationships and learn more about what's happening.
Okay, so for this, we'll go forward with, you're gonna talk to the city and just see where they are and share with them what we're doing. And then we will come back to this looking to do some prioritization. Yeah, does that sound right? Okay.
Mr. Ayers has his hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes, please.
Commissioner Hanning, to your point with city cooperation, the Albany County Planning and Zoning Commission bylaws do have special provisions for appointment of committees. So perhaps a sub or a joint special committee could be an effective way to broach that. And then it's not a meeting of, how many people are on city zoning?
Seven, maybe it's.
That's a lot of government officials.
Well, we did have that subcommittee going for the cap with the, also including the
EAC.
EDC, so yeah, that, I guess that's a good idea. I guess we just have to know that they're equally interested in doing the same thing. So, I mean, if we appoint a subcommittee and no one comes,
Sure.
then what? I mean, I imagine they wanna collaborate still, I would hope.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'd be happy to reach out to the chair of the city planning commission. We work together on a lot of things, so I can
Sure.
run that up the flagpole as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
Perhaps a little more formal, communication. might be
Yeah.
good. Nothing against you, Mr. Gersh.
I'm not formal.
No,
I know what you're saying, yes. Yeah, through this body instead of through staff.
Yeah, yeah. And ultimately, that's, yeah, we should be in a position to try to bring some cooperative sense and prioritization to get something else on that. Okay. That topic, if we've exhausted that, let's move on to Ms. Ben David's project here, with which we all agree. What's the story on the tour idea?
So, yeah, I've got the contacts, and I guess what facilities do we want to, I think we said wastewater, the wastewater facility, and then the wells. And then I want to gauge your interest if this is something you want to do together if we do, because then I just have to, notify the paper that we're having a special meeting. But we can do that, or if this is something we want to do as individuals, or, yeah.
One more.
This is your discussion, so.
Yeah. One more thing to add to it is the intake of the river water.
Intake of the river water,
Yeah, I think,
like at their plant. They do tours. I've been on that tour. It's actually kind of cool.
say what?
I've been to the tour that they do at their water treatment plant out there, so.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Do they do regular tours? I mean, in that case, we can just be aware of them and.
You have to schedule them, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I know the kids used to do this as school tours all the time.
Mhm.
A quorum of kids.
So kids can a murdered them from his foreman.
If three of us want to do it, then we have to have it formal, right?
Did we have?
Yeah, it would be a
Yeah,
special
well,
meeting.
it just has to,
Don't we?
yeah, so it would have to be where any member of the public could appear and attend with you.
Yeah.
And
But
it would have to be noticed according, which is
Basically, we send an email to the
actually
building.
just, for
Say
special
when you're-
meetings, the only notice that's required under statute is Mr. Chair sending an email to, or some sort of communication to the floor.
If we
Letting you know the
don't
place
make
is
decisions though, if it's not a decision-making meeting, does that put it in a different
It's
category?
not, it just gets you out of, if you're not taking an action, then there's no action, which could be null or void. But no, that's kind of a separate. Yeah, there's no like work session where it's closed off to the public. That's
Right.
Commissioner Rivera had a
No,
comment.
I was just gonna point out that if you have it open to other members of the public, then there isn't a problem with all five of you being there at one time. If it's not conducted as a special meeting, if you have other people. Because the commissioners have been invited to tour wind farms, and we're not conducting anything, and there are other people being invited as well, then we just go out there and it doesn't have to be something so formal.
So if the city said, hey, we're having a tour of the water treatment plant and we all happen to show up, that's not a meeting or anything that's noticeable, is it?
yeah, no, technically, well, yeah, because that's not public business within your purview.
And how do I know what these guys are gonna do
You
on
just can't
Saturday
talk about
afternoon?
public business.
Okay, we could
Yeah.
make medicine over in the corner, but
Right.
if we all just showed up. But we're talking here about something scheduled for our
Yes.
purposes. So this would be a noticeable event. All right, so back to Mr. Gertz's, what would we like him set up for us? Your list would be soup to nuts, it sounds like, water out of the river, Where does it go? How does it get here? What are the wells? Same question.
How do we monitor quality? How do we deal with drought? Do we take more from the aquifer and less from by the way, the no water in spring? I need to learn more about, how does the city manages water delivery? How much do they take from the river? Do they account for the hydrology of the river? The condition of the aquifer. Basically, I'd like to know how it works, how the city manages our water.
Yeah, so now the question is that something that we want to do as a group? Or any of us are welcome to have those conversations with anybody we please.
I mean, if we're just looking for information, I mean, we could also invite someone to come, answer questions. Obviously, I think you probably want to see what they're doing, but if there's some things you want to see and some things you want a presentation on, we might be able to arrange something like that too, so.
I learn best from doing, and not listening necessarily.
You're an active learner.
Active learner.
Okay, where are the rest of you? I mean, I helped
be
write the
interested.
city water master plan.
If we set it up, I would try to come.
Okay.
Assuming I could.
Yeah, no, I'd be interested in touring facilities. Some of what you're bringing up in terms of wanting to understand water management seems sort of like a bigger separate topic that like Jay Smith could talk about, but I'm just trying to think of who are the people who would do the tour, like the public works people could come and they could take you out to the wells, they could take you to the water treatment plant. But then like Jay Smith is the one who's having to figure out how to manage how to use enough surface water rights to maintain the surface water right. And it's sort of a complicated policy and regulation thing and not an infrastructure thing. So it's just different, just thinking that there's different city people who would pick up different parts of that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we need a fairly coherent question if we're gonna mobilize the city folks to go to the trouble to take a lot of staff time to just be there and answer our questions and show us around. So that's not a trivial undertaking in terms of their staff time. But I agree, I'd certainly be more than happy to attend. All right, what do you think our options are here, Mr. Gurch?
So, one thing that Joe brought up is we have one of our staff is out for a while. It might be nice to wait till into August, right? Is that when it's coming back? To do any of that. If you want us to be there, that would be helpful. I guess it depends on what time we're doing it. I'm sure.
Just to
probably
cover the office.
Yeah, just to cover the office, but I think you need to pick one place at a time. And a date and time kind of thing. Date, time, and place you want to go visit. And then I can see if I can arrange that.
Well, the water treatment plant is you could do that as a visit, and they've probably got a pretty regular routine when they do those. Yes. So would you suggest in what order would you like to see those, or which pieces are most important?
I have no preference. All I have to say is that it has to happen before the semester starts in August, because my teaching in the fall is crazy. That's the only limitation. And we can do it in different parts, we can whatever, but it has to be before August. When the semester starts on the 20th.
Well, the things to see would be the water treatment plant.
I need to see,
But seeing.
I have specific questions about some of the wells locations. There is, I don't understand how the city is managing some of the wells and how they protect the water quality with what I have seen walking my dogs around them. I need to understand how they monitor what they do, how they get the water out, how they monitor how they preserve the integrity of the water that they pump out. I need to talk to someone who is in charge, because as I mentioned to you, the roof of one of our holding tanks blew off and it's still not repaired properly.
Yeah,
Still, there is a plastic bag over our water tank, and then we are, working on regulations that, are minute. We tell people how many times to pump the sewage, the septic tank, when the whole thing is exposed to whatever.
I'm just trying to distinguish something that's appropriate and useful to see in the field versus having somebody like Jake come and explain their priorities and their management and so forth. And there's not a great deal to see with respect to the groundwater.
I would like to see and talk to the people who manage the wells
I understand,
and the
but
holding facilities.
do you want that person standing here talking to us, or do you want them to do that standing at the well house?
I have specific questions at the well house.
Okay.
So.
The suggestion is we're going to deputize Mr. Gersh to ask to have such a tour set up. Is that where we are? Again, I'm not objecting or anything. I'm just trying to get my arms around this idea in a way that's respectful of all the participants.
Yes, let me say this. I don't mind having the tour done just for me, because maybe I'm the only one who has concerns and questions. The only thing is that if I get a phone number from Mr. Gerch and he says, coordinate whatever you want, I will not be able to coordinate it. They can send me around the block several times, which the city has done before. So my point is I want to sit as a commissioner. I have questions as a commissioner, and I'd like to visit these facilities as a commissioner, not as a private individual. How can that be arranged? I don't care.
Okay, we'll just give me some dates and times and.
Okay, well, okay. Do we share this concern and this interest in this?
We could learn something.
Okay. Like say if somebody puts together a program for me, I'm happy to attend, but that means they're doing all the work. Okay, so am I understanding the sense of the commission that we would like Mr. Gerch on behalf of the commission, not an individual commissioner, to pursue nailing some dates down? My schedule's quite flexible. It's full, but again, how do we move this thing forward? Do we all want to do a doodle poll, or do you want to talk to those guys and come back to us with what would be convenient for them? Or I'm just looking for a way forward. Will you?
I'll say for myself, I have no objections to this, but I'm not personally interested.
Okay.
I mean, if you guys just can tell me like your availability, then I can talk to them and just schedule a date.
Not on a Friday.
I'm with you. We don't work Fridays.
Fridays are booked.
I mean, do you have like specific, is there bad dates or bad days of the week besides Friday? Are you good with like afternoon, mornings?
Either is fine.
I'm
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm flexible.
flexible.
How about I'll call somebody and see what they say and what times they can do it, and we'll go from there and I'll let you know.
Okay, no, thank you. It's kind of a wade in and see if something, they might say, oh, we're so happy somebody asked. Come on out. We'd love to show you our facility. In which case, then we're good to go.
Okay.
Is that satisfactory?
Sounds like you have a lot of questions for the wells, so I'm gonna start there if that's all right.
I have a lot of questions also for the wastewater facility and the intake, the pumping station from the river. But whatever you organize will be fine.
Okay. Well,
Should we invite the
we'll set up some
commissioners?
field trips.
Commissioners
Saturday morning,
interested?
5 a.m.
I don't know something, but I'll let you guys figure the date.
Okay.
I'm available.
I would agree with the wells in that that's the piece that's most obviously within our, what we're doing in our purview. I don't know that there's a zoning, planning and zoning issue related to wastewater, but it's just good to have that larger context. So if we were to do these in order of our potential involvement as commissioners, I guess I would start with the wells. Does that work?
I don't mind the order at all.
Okay. All right, Mr. Gertz is gonna see what he can put together for us. I don't know what the reaction will be. It could go either way.
We're supposed to collaborate.
Or we'll just elaborate our little hearts out. Okay, next item, the Monterey program, which it's a nice segue into that because I think we have questions about that and it goes to something that Commissioner Hanning brought up earlier. I guess I sensed, at least from Commissioner Hanning and myself, an interest in some involvement by the county in the scoping and planning and strategy moving forward with that effort. Now it's a city effort and I assume it's being funded entirely by the city. Is that correct?
Yeah.
As far as you know. Okay, so we're the tag-alongs. Have you had any discussion with them? Is there going to be a technical review committee or somebody looking over the consultant's shoulder to input forward?
Yes, I believe so. I have a meeting scheduled next Thursday for a scoping meeting, so I'm not sure exactly who is on that committee. I just know I was invited.
Well, speaking for myself, and I'm certainly open to everyone's suggestion, I would be happy to volunteer us to help on that, whether it's me personally, setting it myself, or obviously the two most qualified to weigh in on that. But I would like us to have some participation if it's available to us.
Attend the meeting or?
What would that be outlined to crash the meeting, or can you ask?
I mean, I'll ask them if they want you to go, or if you're
welcome, or
if you're welcome or not. Yes,
Sure.
see what they tell you.
What program is this?
The city has led a contract to develop a monitoring well program
Oh,
for
monitoring.
water quality in the aquifer.
Or Monterey?
Yeah, there's
Or
actually
I
a
wouldn't be
monorail
back.
line going in.
That'd be great.
Yeah, something about your house and I don't know, bulldozers, I don't know. Well, yeah,
I'll reach out.
that's fine. Okay, then let us know. Like I say, I'd personally be happy to be involved with that. And I've been working with this for obviously, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years.
Sure.
So, yeah, if that's okay with the commission, that we stick our nose into that, I think it's
very important.
it's our.
We do that, and I'll be happy to help too. Not that I understand any of it like you guys do, but
Tell me again when that meeting is?
Thursday, I think.
Is it tomorrow?
There's
As in next Thursday, excuse me.
at,
I don't know. Let me look on my calendar.
and I don't know Mr. Smith, but Mr. Parkin was always quite receptive to whatever input he could have free of charge.
10:30,
Okay, at where?
the RSC Laramie Training Room.
What's that?
Don't know. I'll probably. Need to
it's on the north end of town, guys.
Like where the urban road thing. Yeah,
Is that-
thanks.
Hey,
By the
Is it,
fairground.
do you think it's out there?
maybe.
Normally that's.
I've never heard it called RSC Training Room. So
Normally
this
they
is-
just call it
I-
out there.
Yeah, there's been two different names I've heard. This is not one of them. So
Okay.
that's why I don't know.
All right, well, let us know and we'll see if, and see what you come back with. If they say, no, this is a closed meeting, then we'll make other arrangements.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Let's look at Mr. Kornick's suggestion, talk about how we manage public comments. Go ahead. You had thought maybe we changed the order.
Well, I mean, I don't know why these folks were here, but maybe we just wore them down and they didn't get to say what they wanted to say if they did want to comment. But I think it just seems like it would be more considerate to the public if we did not make them sit through hours of other things before they get to speak. Or remove them off the agenda.
It's been done different ways. As you know, the county commissioners have, in the beginning of their meetings, it can become quite cumbersome. I think is why it's been moved beginning and end as we look at, say, city council and board of commissioners for our template. Mr. Ayers?
No, I was gonna be at that point.
Okay, we aren't required to take public comment at all, except under these specific public hearing. Is that correct?
Yes.
So this is something, a courtesy that we extend to the public.
I think it's certainly best practice
And-
across the state.
Okay, it would,
Could it be
with-
like limited to 3 minutes like we?
what's-
I mean, it doesn't have to become that cumbersome, maybe if we create some boundaries.
What does the board, do you guys have
We have it
a,
at the beginning.
but do you have a, we're gonna do this for 20 minutes, then we're gonna stop, or do you have
No.
unlimited?
No, it's unlimited, but it's each person speaks for. I don't know if we actually have
Isn't
a
it-
3 minute.
Isn't it non-agenda items too?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It can't be on anything that we already are having a public hearing or an agenda, another agenda item.
I think it's the city council, and this has gone back and forth and round and round. At one point, one of the bodies was saying, okay, it's on our agenda at the beginning for 20 minutes or whatever it is. We're not gonna do this for hours and hours and listen to everybody yammer on. We have not had anybody do this to us, but I know city council meetings, they've had a terrible time with people taking advantage of their public comment period to zoom in from God knows where with these anti-Semitic rants, and the poor mayor has to cut them off, and the whole thing's ugly. We have not had any problem with that. So my only concern would be if it's at the beginning. I mean, we're here to do the public's business. We're not here to provide a open mic night at the bar. So how do we balance that? Go ahead.
Sure. Can I make a proposal that when we decide on the agenda, we open the floor to people who are present to at least tell us what they want to talk about. And then we can vote if we would like to hold at the end, and at least give them the opportunity to go away and come back. So at least we'll know what the topic is, because you're right, there were a lot of people here that
We didn't hear from.
they they wanted to tell us something and they didn't get to. And it would be nice at least to know what the topic is.
These people were here for the zoning districts. The guy in the back is running for county commission.
Yeah.
The other two were here for that application. So I know like at least those.
And I think everybody who wanted to say something. said
Yeah.
something, or
I
did.
think
if-
Those in the back were just observing.
Yeah,
These guys just wanted to know the zoning district stuff.
That was my guess, is that as we approach election, we've got candidates that are wanting to say, oh, I've been to planning and zoning, and here's why you need to elect me to get rid of those clouds.
I can also think of that time where when we were out at Whedon Pest working on the cap, and there were people from Centennial who wanted to talk about short-term rental issues. And they sort of, Diana was cognizant and kind enough to say, hey, can we stop and just let them talk? Because we're gonna be here all night. So we sort of did that one on the fly somehow. We changed our.
Yeah, we just changed it then. That's the same issue. That is just,
Right.
I feel like if we're gonna be public servants, we should make it.
But how about if we trust the chair to make good decisions? And take things as they come? Because our time's valuable too. We've often had very long meetings, even as things are. And there's ways for people to make public comments without being here. I mean, they can send emails, they can write.
It just seems like if we limit them to 3 minutes each, it's not gonna go on that long. We never get.
I agree so far. We haven't had that. I totally agree with you, Diana. So.
What do you guys think? Have you thought about this at all?
I have no, I don't care at all. I'm here all night, so.
That's a professional answer.
I mean, honestly, I think wherever you put it, we just don't see people showing up to the meetings just to provide a public comment. This is a recommendation board. It's not we're making the decision board. So I don't know if it matters either way.
Might be good to, if you are gonna move it up, put it after public hearing, because especially, I think at the commissioner stage, it's always. If they get to the public comment portion, everyone's there for the public hearing, and they start talking to the public hearing. But then you can kind of get ahead of those people by just doing the public hearings first.
Yeah, although we do those before we get into our other projects. I mean, they're first thing on the docket, maybe, right?
Hey, Mr. Chair, if you did put it even if you put it before like any public hearings, if you made it clear, it's like, this is for non-agenda items. So if there's an agenda item you're here for, there's a time to speak at that time. I think if there's just like education at the beginning, at least, 50% of them will listen.
Or we could put it right after the public hearing.
I don't know, like.
Do the public hearing first, because that's where most people would comment if they wanted to comment, and then people who wanted to comment on something else could go right after.
Yeah, you just put a post.
Yeah, our public hearing comes first.
Yeah.
Yeah, your process though, then you come back to it.
Before the planning.
I mean,
I really don't care, so I just.
okay, well, let's see. No, the thing that I've never been comfortable with the way the board does it, Commissioner Ibarra, is that there's you get 2 bites at the apple. There's a public hearing, and then that's closed. And then the topic comes up down on the agenda, and then we take additional public comment there. So how do we distinguish between the two?
That's the commissioner's discretion.
Yeah, and usually if that's the case, we ask that it be comments that haven't already been heard in the public hearing. Although you do want to allow everybody to be able to say their thing. I don't know if that.
So why don't you do it the way we do, where we just make that one thing? While we're on the topic, let's get to the end of this. That's
Their agenda's too varied.
because then the people who wanted to discuss it at the point of decision have to wait through all the rest of that stuff.
I mean, generally, it's when it comes to consideration as an agenda item, that's not members of the public speaking anymore, so they just put it.
That's when they get it in before in the public comment period of anything else that's on the agenda. They'll say something, they're not
Right,
really.
but you do your public hearings before, even if it is a specific thing, a zoning change, there's a public hearing on it,
Correct,
and then we set it aside, and then we come back to it
as an agenda.
20 items down and do it again. We could just, as we do, I think, we take the public hearing part and we combine it with the agenda item and do it all as a package. Is there some
Which
reason?
honestly, like, people do get confused with the public hearings. We have to educate them. It's like, they'll show up for a public hearing to the board and they're like, oh, they just voted and it's approved, and they'll walk out the door. They don't realize it wasn't a decision. They just closed the public hearing.
Right.
But
All right, well, that's, I've just wondered about that. That same confusion. Everybody asks me, well, when am I supposed to comment on it? But anyway, that's a
Right.
separate topic. All right, how about this? Let's put it on our agenda after the public applications. I mean, that would seem to kind of split the difference. So then they aren't having to wade through our long discussions that sometimes get quite philosophical, but useful.
Great.
All right, all right.
Yep.
Let's just move that as a regular agenda item. Let's see how that flies. Does that sound, is that what we're talking
Yeah,
about?
that would be just.
Of course, now that we made a decision, nobody will ever come and us.
I mean, I have that same sense of, well, why are you here? And maybe they don't want to tell us. Okay, back on our agenda, but that sounds good to me. Other staff updates, we've probably hit everything you guys are doing. Do you want to share anything with us?
so the items that you sent on the Aquifer Protection Overlay Zone amendments, we've got both the wastewater and the zoning that will go before the board for their directive to publish. So if they approve that at their meeting next week, then we'll get them published on Saturday. and with a public hearing date of I think it's the 2nd of September or the 3rd of September. So one of those dates, but so that'll be the 45 days.
Okay.
Unless they choose to do a different date, but that's pretty much, I mean, I think 45 days is exactly that Tuesday. So if we get them published this next week, so that's where that's at. And then I don't think there's anything else too crazy to talk about unless you guys remember. I always forget something, so.
Well, I'll ask again about the IGA. It will soon have been a year since the county and the city adopted the plan. And if a year is not enough time to get IGA in place, then what is enough time?
2 years. I don't know. We're really close. I mean, yeah. We'll see where we're at. I can't even remember where we're at. Like, so we've sent our comments back to the city and the city. Matt, do you remember where we're at? You've been involved in this?
Was it on the last meeting, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We sent it back to them and I haven't heard anything back.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We sent them to the city and we're just waiting to hear back. So.
But we need some changes to our zoning regs regardless of the IGA, right? I think we've kind of
Correct.
talked about this before. So,
Yes.
so may I piggyback on your question?
Absolutely.
Where do those stand? Our own response to the.
They're in draft form.
Okay.
So I haven't honestly had a whole lot of time to focus much energy on them. Joe's been working on the other zoning changes. So yeah, hopefully in the next couple of months we'll have something.
Can we move on to commissioner comments then?
Okay, are you done? And do we have questions for these guys? I was not in attendance the last one. What was the disposition of our recommendation on the Barnhart zoning change?
That was denied.
Okay.
Application 2-1.
Okay, just, we kind of lose track of it, then we know what happens.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Okay, let us move on to other commissioner comments. Mr. Platt.
So this ties in with the IGA and just the collaboration between the city and county. Obviously, today, the city provided a recommendation to deny this application that we heard today. And anytime two parties are collaborating together with enough things coming forward, you're going to disagree on some items. So we're going to need a process at some point to decide how we are going to decide these matters. And I'll just state my feeling that when we have something like tonight, I think the city should be represented here. I think that'd be useful.
So may I?
Please.
Okay, so that's a good point. So that is something that the IGA
Well, let me say
will.
one other thing. I view us as friendly and not all hostile. We're working together.
Right.
And we're going to disagree sometimes, and we got to find a good way to do that.
Right.
That's why I'm asking about it.
Right. And you know, just to step back, I mean, they're providing their comments in the best interest of the city, right? And the growth area plan is supposed to be, it's supposed to be in the best interest of both of our, you know, our entities and for the community as a whole. So that's part of it. Tonight, they were simply a commenter on that application. There's nothing formal that is set out in any rules or regulations that we have to even send that to them. I mean, they actually have a property right next to it. So in this situation, yes, we did actually have to they had to have notice. But like in other instances, that's not the case. But what we will be doing, or what is, I think okay with us from our last draft, was any subdivisions that come in that are near the city or contiguous to the city, or zoning district amendments. I think, did we remove that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but we have codified some, you know, communication. Because yeah, we want to communicate and work together on these things. That doesn't mean we're always going to be on the same page. But for the most part, we want, I guess bottom line is an applicant comes in, we want
we want them to kind of know what they're getting into from both entities, you know, and then we can kind of work from there. But yeah, we really do want to work with them, so.
So on this one, in their letter, they objected to the staff recommendation. So how did they come to know the staff recommendation?
I'm not sure because I received that before I even wrote my staff report, to be honest, so.
Okay. No, I read that.
They must have read my mind, I don't know.
Loose lips.
Well, it's an honest answer. Like I received that before I wrote my staff report, so, and I didn't have any communications before.
Happens a lot.
So.
You know, my thought is that if the city really cares about something, they ought to show up. You know, we ought to have discussion. That's just my view. Maybe no one else agrees with that. That's fine.
And we can invite them.
Well, I would think
They
they
don't
would
have
have
to
to
come,
come. We're talking about collaborating and
They
I mean,
might,
yeah, to me, this was a small item. I mean, yeah, it's only 1.3 acres. It doesn't, in the long run, it doesn't matter one way or another. It absolutely won't. But there will be other issues that come forward and we're gonna have to figure out how to deal with them and do it in a cordial, professional and ways so we arrive at a good outcome. And I'm sure that will happen, but I want to express it.
Thank you. I share your thought of the letter suggested that they were in the issue. They knew that, well, they know what our schedule is. I don't know why nobody showed up, but they know they're welcome to come. Well, all right, again, as you're just.
I think the response was written. They told us how they feel about it in a written form. It's as valid as testifying.
Oh, we had applicants that in a written application, they bothered to show up.
Yeah.
No, you're right, but anyway, that's my view.
So we want for every application, the Game and Fish to be here and the
No.
IDOT.
No, in this case, again, we had a disagreement based on the Laramie Growth Area Plan map. And if the city really felt strongly about this, show up. That's what I believe should happen. You know, showing up in life counts. It really does.
90%.
So.
Right, so thank you for the comment, and I'm sympathetic to that. I certainly assume they know they're welcome, and if Mr. Gertsch needs to point out to them that we are listening, and they know we took their comments seriously, we would take them more seriously if somebody was standing there discussing them. So, yeah.
And, you know, and honestly, just to add to that, Mr. Chair,
you put things down on paper the best you can, but there's sometimes questions that you can, you know, tease out some more of the background and why they're recommending what they're recommending, or get to the, you know, maybe some things that they just couldn't express in their, you know, letter. So I think it really is advantageous to have someone to have a discussion with in these types of things. So.
Yeah, all right, and just as long as they're clear that we welcome their input. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
All as well as written.
I go in and talk to those guys. I think they're all great. They're fun to talk with.
Maybe they don't have any comp time and they're all 5 o'clockers. I don't know. Anyway. Point taken. Other comments?
One thing we never talk about is whether precedent comes into our decisions. Like, it is only 1.3 acres, but are we setting a precedent with our decisions, and does that influence future decisions, or do we have to, it doesn't?
No.
Because we're not lawyers.
Yeah, it's ad hoc.
Well, we recommended other places be denied because of the Laramie growth area plan, right?
Right.
So
In this
So-
particular.
Sure, but there were
we've taken into consideration site-specific aspects, and we've come down either side on the.
Okay, so
We
we don't
exercise
have to
our
worry.
judgment and ultimately the commissioners exercise their judgment
Right.
and have final say.
But I
Well,
think
yeah.
the question is, are we somehow bound by precedent? And I think the answer is no.
We're not,
The
okay,
legal basis isn't reasonable.
okay.
It's not, courts do not review it from, was it prudent? You know, what should have been? It's just, is there, you know, information which is articulated that could reasonably supply a basis for the decision that was reached.
Okay, I just want
So
to,
as long as, you know, it's actually, you know, based upon like the information before you and is a reasonable exercise of your judgment, that's.
okay.
I would add that we are creating emotional precedent, maybe not legal precedent. But when I look at these applications, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just another storage facility next to another storage facility. Oh, I should vote yes. Why should I not? But then, oh yeah, because we voted for that and we voted for that. And yeah, the FAA came and they said they have no problem. We're not dealing with a global plan. And when we do things, and we have to do it in piecemeal, but we have to have a guide. And unfortunately, I don't feel that we are following the guide that you guys thought was good. I mean, I feel that we are just putting out fires instead of looking at, okay, the goal is to get X affordable housing in Laramie. We can't put it on the east side of town because of the aquifer. Here is where the growth is happening. That's why we have these maps here. They're broad painted, but we need to at least address those. And I don't feel we're doing that. I'm sorry, Chair, but that's how I feel about it.
No, you're welcome to your feelings, and it's a judgment call. Each one is individual. This last discussion we had, I'm death by 1,000 paper cuts. 10 1.2s is 12. Yeah, I think we have to take them as they come and make the best decision we can, which I hope we are doing. And that isn't going to please everybody, but that was a good discussion I thought we had. And we'll continue to do that. We are not bound by precedent, but we certainly establish patterns of behavior that people look at. And so, yeah, point well taken, and we need to keep that in mind.
Apparently, even the Supreme Court is bound by precedent.
Right. Okay. I think other comments. And these are appropriate. What are we trying to do here globally? And we are called the Planning and Zoning Committee, not the Put Out Fires Committee, to use your term. Okay. Other thoughts? Then our next regular meeting is August 14th.
Mr. Ayers has his
I'm sorry, Mr. Ayers.
This is something I've run past David. But in terms of the Laramie Growth Area Plan, and then when we're using that as a basis, and also the comp plan, it's starting to get a little weird, just because of diverging recommendations. I would suggest that we absorb the growth area plan and also the cap as parts of the comprehensive plan, distinct parts, but with sort of a rule of interpretation that in the case of conflict between either of those more specific plans, it will control over the comprehensive plan.
I guess what I've come to understand largely through your counsel is that all of these count as land use plans and all stand side by side as comprehensive plans. Did I misunderstood that? There's a decent argument that the county is only to adopt one comprehensive plan. I think, throughout the state, I doubt we'd be the only people to have separate plans. And we can essentially move forward as that. It's pretty much just backed onto the comp plan. You just put it all in one sort of document. I mean, when I talk to the city planners, for example, the road is represented to me by Mr. Tini as this is a one-page comp plan. The map of the major streets and roads. Well, and I can't speak to the cities. And again, I'm just thinking that it conformed with my understanding of all of these things are comp plans under the statutory authorization. There are certainly local land use plans. Okay. Comp plan is a very distinct one of those. And it has its own statutory authorization. 185202. Okay. Whereas the local land use plan is 98301. But it also says that the county is to
adopt a local land use plan, i.e. the comp plan, which incorporates all of the local land use plans of any incorporated municipality within the county.
And so the difference between just putting them all in a big pile and driving a spike through it would be that there'd be some prioritization you're suggesting.
Yeah.
So I guess my comment would be is, so you adopt those things within your comp plan, but then within your comp plan, now you have all of the conflicts that exist.
Well, but now, I mean, we have those conflicts, right?
Right, I mean,
But
you're
what I'm
just carrying
saying-
them into the same document.
Yeah, but you can actually put a line in that says, in the case of conflict,
Oh, that this one.
this will control for like this area.
But none of them are truly
It's a law
controlling. They're
compliance.
all just guidance, and we can say we choose not to follow that, right?
Yeah, I
Like-
mean, but you're also, you know, it's guidance, but it's conflicting guidance, so there has to be affirmative determination of which one you're following.
And we do that on an ad hoc basis as applications come forward. See,
Sort of.
okay,
I wouldn't, there's no required finding of, you know, what it's following. There's probably gonna be a situation where you can't say it generally complies with all applicable land use, because either way you go, you're conflicting with one.
okay, like when we had today, where it seems to be in conflict with this plan and not with this.
Yeah, and in that case, I mean, it's pretty hard to defend that finding, because if either way you go, that finding can't be made. But if you have kind of a rule of priority, well,
Yeah, I guess what we heard from Mr. Gertz was it is generally, we use that umbrella to
Yeah.
suggest that it was generally compatible with both of those two plans.
yeah, and
That's
Generally following the suggestions of the comprehensive plan.
I think that it worked
I
in
know
this
the land use
instance, but in others.
It's like the whole verbiage is just very not very specific, you know, it's like it's trying to make it as broad as possible, but.
Right, but when you have two different things and the suggestions are in direct conflict with one another, I mean, a court is not gonna see that as generally following.
Go ahead.
If we do that, then our job becomes a lot easier. You don't need us here. You look at the application, you say it matches the comprehensive area plan, not the Laramie growth area. That's overriding, so our opinion doesn't matter.
There are still, what, 7 required findings that the commission has to make in addition to that one?
You can
They can
have
clarify.
Mr. Gertz do his staff report and
And that's just a suggestion.
Well, yes.
Well,
doesn't
Mr.
matter.
Well, let's look at this thing about compatibility with surrounding areas. That is hugely subjective judgment,
Yeah.
one which Mr. Gertz has rendered multiple times, with which we have disagreed,
Mhm.
and we're welcome to do that. So no, I don't.
no, but if you make a
Comp
rule,
plans are never that directive, and compatibility, no economic impact, taken literally, everything gets rejected. You can never find that. There's gotta be something. So, yeah, I don't think we are bound that tightly by any of that language. It couldn't be.
No.
So your suggestion is what? That Mr. Gertz, as he, in his copious free time, contemplates the revision of the comp plan, try to meld the others into it and identify some of these conflicts and resolve them?
I don't even think meld, I think like append.
Well, but you just have these two things that don't agree with each other that are in the same physical document. So it's more than appending that you're suggesting. It's resolution
Okay, so
of
appending with one little section stating
who
the
wins.
specific controls over the general.
I don't know.
I mean, the plans too, like, well, if we're just looking at the growth plan and the comp plan and not really talking about the cast rock, or a comprehensive plan is truly comprehensive, right? It's like, it's looking at transportation, it's looking at public services, it's looking at all of those things. The growth area plan is very specific. I mean, they did a utilities plan, they did some, you know, a little bit of like transportation planning, but like most of that's not even, what they provided is not even in the document. Like there's no, I don't know, like they're really different documents. I mean, to me, it's like you almost need to like integrate them, like so they all make sense, but that's a whole different plan, you know, it's not just like amending it, you know? I don't know,
I mean,
That's why I voted
ideally,
against it.
that would all be integrated, but
right.
That's why I voted against it.
Either way, I don't think it's a good solution. I don't like either one, honestly. Like it, you know, they're going to conflict no matter what we do, unless we actually make some huge amendments to one of the other plans as we put them in there.
Well, eventually the comprehensive plan will be updated. Correct? Eventually, I said.
Eventually, I hope so, yeah.
And in the meantime, we do have a Laramie growth area plan, which is a small specific area of the county to use. I think we're doing okay.
So I guess what I'm hearing from Mr. Ayers is if challenged on, it is generally consistent with applicable land use plans, it might fail that test.
yeah, there's also like the growth area plan, there's arguably no authority to adopt that separately from the comp plan, but that's arguable. I'm not saying it's decided.
Well, I would look forward to how the growth area plan shows up in our zoning regulations. I mean, this is the thing we're talking about earlier, and maybe that will sharpen some of these issues for us when we get to that point. I've been skeptical of that all along, but look forward to what you guys come up with. All right, opposite of specific suggestion, let's hold that thought. Thank you for your always trying to keep us on the legal track as best we can. But as you said earlier, each individual application comes forward to us. We make our decisions on an ad hoc basis.
Mhm.
We hope well-reasoned, articulable as best we can. Yeah, other thoughts? As you guys are reading those various plans, be sensitive to this concern, and at some point maybe we can iron some of those out. But I think trying to resolve the growth area plan and how do we demand people annex? That's a can of worms that, again, I look forward to what you guys come up with. I'm holding my fire.
It's a very nuanced solution and perhaps people would like, but I mean, it's defendable.
Are any other communities trying to deal with the missing donut in this way, or are we the only county trying to?
I know that there was a case out of Sweetwater County, Laughter v. Porter County Commissioners, Sweetwater County. It was 1972. They had growth plans for Green River and Rock Springs, but that was within the comp plan. They were like sub-plans. So no, I don't think that this is anything new, but I can't speak to dude.
Yeah, I'm not sure of any other county, cities where they have like a growth plan like this. I mean, Sheridan has some kind of an agreement, but I can't remember what that is. They've had that for years. That's
Before the donut went away.
yeah, before the donut went away. I'm not sure exactly, what was stipulated in that. So yeah, I've not heard of anybody else really. I mean, the way Cheyenne and Laramie County deal with it is they only zone out so far, and that's their donut, I guess. And then the rest of the county, I don't know, they might be going, I think I heard they might be going away from that
Seems like it bit them in the butt not having.
zoning where they wanted to do something.
Yeah.
For asphalt specials.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah. So, but yeah, I haven't heard of anybody trying to do what we did, so.
I think that's
It's
the
still a
consultant
process.
said that this was new territory.
Yeah. Now Teton County, which is
Well, but there's like,
not good to.
it's
use
all,
as a
it's because every planning document is town, Jackson and Teton County.
Yeah.
All, like, everything they do is joint from its
I can't remember what they're
inception.
doing though, is it?
They're doing the water.
Yeah.
Commissioner Manning is doing the water.
But the city does stuff on their own. I mean, like their stormwater management plan is just in the town.
So they're doing
yeah, I
something
don't
over
know.
there, but I just know that.
The town did not sign on to the water quality management plan.
No.
They had a person participating in it, but they did not co-author it or co-approve it. So it's strictly the county's plan.
Has it been adopted by the county?
The commissioners did finally adopt it.
Okay.
So are you worried though that if we start making changes to the zoning resolution without this being tucked into the comp plan, that we're sending you back to the state Supreme Court?
The argument's there, but at the end of the day, I mean, a comprehensive plan is, you can deviate from the comprehensive plan so long as you're supplying some rational basis therefore. So it's, yeah. It's more of that plus like the potential for conflict.
So the staff report that we just heard earlier today, Mr. Gertz pointed out that this was, in his opinion, compatible with the comp plan, but was somewhat at odds with growth plan. And then ultimately recommended a finding that it was
Generally.
consistent with applicable land use plans.
In our discussion, we acknowledged, at least alluded to the fact that, the map we have to work with, Laramie Growth Area Plan isn't perfect. No map is perfect. You have to deal with the facts as they actually exist in the particular property or parcel in question. I think we did that in the original map.
So maybe I guess I wasn't trying to advocate for, next meeting, we'll be seeing something, but was a thought.
No, this item on our continuing agenda is when we have time to just, let's step back a little bit so we aren't just putting out fires. Where are we going with the whole program?
And are taking a list of, possible things to modify at some point down the road with respect to the cap. We can also make observations about where we see problems with, the map and make, just a map. I mean, last time around when we discussed Olson application, we know the fact that nearby that swath of the state residential, in that area where clearly state residential is not going to happen.
Yeah.
And, someone would be on the ground when they're making that map, applying broad strokes, it would have been applied differently.
Well, in the comp plan, something that I've advocated, which I've got around to, is there's the map in there that shows PGA 3, and it's in direct conflict with the cap. And that was resolved for some reason, part way, not the other. So maybe the moral is we find those things, we ought to go back and modify the comp plan to iron out those wrinkles. I hate to be doing that. What's the comp plan? Well, it's different every week, but maybe once a year we kind of sweep up those inconsistencies and try to resolve the head-to-head ones. Be responsive to Mr. Ayers' comment. Do you have a kind of a mental list, Mr. Gertz, of little tweaks to the comp plan to make it say what we think we want it to say?
I haven't really thought a whole lot about the comp plan. honestly.
I mean, it is the fundamental document that we propose to cleave to.
I mean, yeah, the priority growth areas probably should be looked at. I mean, and that's what we would, if we integrated the growth area plan, we would integrate that as basically priority growth area 1. It would become the new priority growth area 1 with the yeah, that would be where we put it with the land uses as they describe them, so. Yeah, I mean, it's outdated too, just in, I mean, it's been, I don't know how many censuses we've had since we've had that, that data's,
2006, right?
it was adopted 2008.
Just
So 2010, so I guess just 2010
10
and
and 20,
2020. So just, I mean, a lot of it's just informational stuff that needs to be updated, but I mean, that could, spill into other things if we learn more about what's going on, or what hasn't gone on.
And when we talk about the comp plan, I think it's a budgetary situation, what it is, and the tax on property taxes being what they are, that's unlikely that we're gonna turn loose a, whatever it would be, $300,000 contract to hire it, so we do the comp plan for us, but we can do it piecemeal.
Yeah, we can work through it, have a lot of
And
time like you're
so-
suggesting, for sure.
As you're looking at the implementation of the growth plan, would be an opportunity to flag where there may be incompatibilities, and that let's bring forward some recommendations for the comp plan at the same time, like we want to do with the cap. So maybe it's just an accumulating list of modifications of the comp plan.
Right. Well, just, I mean, the one thing that's big about the comp plan and other plans is just the public, comment aspect, just really trying to delve into what others are thinking and want to see. So it's like, I would like to make sure that something's integrated into those. I don't know, if we're just gonna go through it and change it all by ourselves and hold a public hearing that nobody, it's not really, I don't know, it gets away from kind of the integrity of the comp plan to me, but.
Well, but if our changes come to it through that process, the cap was widely discussed, for example. It was a consultant effort, and so if something came out of the cap that requires modification of the comp plan, I think we've met your concerns.
Oh,
Similarly to
sure.
the growth plan, I mean, we had all the.
Yeah,
Lots and lots
all
of-
that stuff, yeah. it's
So
already been
as you
done.
find things there, then you, I think, can credibly say the public has been involved. We have come to this
Sure.
deliberately, rather than let's just change it without any input. So in many cases, we've had that.
Mhm.
Okay.
We'll take inventory and kind of go through things when we have time and see what, maybe there's some low hanging fruit. We could just start there and work through some of this. And, yeah.
But it would be helpful for us to say, okay, here's the guidance. Let's see how we like to apply it here. Other thoughts? Okay, then we have come to the end. Thank you all for your patience and good thinking. We are adjourned.
Right.